Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Got a jam-packed show for you tonight. So many things going on this week. We are on the precipice of the start of the new league year, which takes place next week, which means free agency kicks off next week, which, technically speaking, the tampering period begins this weekend. And so you're going to hear a lot of stuff going on over the weekend. Some deals will be in place in principle over the weekend. They won't become official until the start of the new league year, which, if I'm not mistaken, is Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Could be Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Don't get me the line on that. However, it is next week, and thus the real start of the NFL offseason takes place next week. So we're going to dive into free agency knee deep in what we think, the Commanders should be taking a gander at in free agency. I'm going to give you my humble opinion on what I think they're going to be focused on. Nothing's out of bounds. Nothing's off the table. But I after sitting and watching the way Ron maneuvers over the first, 3 years of his tenure here, I kind of got a feel for what he probably is going to try to do and how he's going to try to attack free agency. I could be wrong because he's thrown a swift curveball this offseason. And we're going to talk about some of the things that he's done that I think, for all intents and purposes, have been a breath of fresh air. If you're a fan of this team and you want to see them, maybe take a step forward, you should be pleased at what Ron has done to this point, because he hasn't done the status quo thing that we've expected of him since he's gotten here. He hasn't done the comfortable thing. He's gone out of his comfort zone to bring in coaches that have no affiliation to him whatsoever, don't have any ties to him or anyone on the staff, don't go back to his days in Carolina. He has made a sharp turn in the opposite direction, because if you want change, you must do different things. And that's what he's trying to do this year. Now, will it work? All bets are off. We don't know the answer to that. We don't know if any of this stuff that he's doing will actually bear any fruit. However, you don't know unless you try. And I can tell you one thing, what he was doing before with the old staff, with Sam Mills III and with Scott Turner and a lot of his old Carolina Panther chromies, wasn't working. All right. So I like the direction Ron's going in. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight. But, free agency is on the docket. We'll talk about that. We will really dive into that aggressively tonight. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson briefly. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I know you guys are probably fatigued on that subject matter, but I do have to bring it up because there are a couple of things that I want to say. I'll probably get that out of the way first. Wide receiver coach, I told you guys, keep your ears to the street, eyes peeled, see what was going on with that situation. They've made a hire. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then also compensatory picks came out. And so I want to also go over that with you. No surprises there. We got exactly what we thought we were going to get. And so we'll talk about that briefly. So now we know exactly how many picks Washington will have going into the upcoming draft. And everything's kind of set in stone now, unless they make any moves, during the draft. We now know what Washington will have, and we'll talk about that as we get closer and closer to the draft. But there's also something else I want to talk about. And I guess because we're going to start the show talking Lamar Jackson briefly, I think this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So Rich Eisen has a podcast. I know you guys are probably very familiar with this. It's called the Rich Eisen Podcast, and he does a great job on his podcast. And he's very opinionated, and I love Rich. And me and Rich go back to his SportsCenter days on ESPN. So me and Rich have a long-standing relationship, and Rich is a guy that I rock with, and he's got his ears to the street. He's plugged into the league, all right? And so when he speaks, I tend to listen. Now, again, he, like myself, very opinionated. The biggest difference is his opinions come with a little bit more validity because he's plugged into the league. He knows people, and he hears people chirping and talking behind the scenes. And so he can formulate an opinion a little bit more so based off of what he's heard from people in the know. Whereas I'm just basing my opinion off of how people move, how people operate, what I think. And, there's a lot of things that I throw in the pot, mix it together, and I spit out, my opinions to you guys. But in any event, Rich was talking about, his time in Indy, specifically the interview they did. I told you guys Ron Rivera talked to Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah on air at the scouting combine, day number 1. And he talked about Sam Howell, and he talked about, some of the different things. And then Jerry Richardson had just passed away, so he talked about that. I want you to listen to Rich Eisen on his podcast talking about Washington's quarterback situation, specifically Sam Howell, and how Washington may be approaching this offseason. There's been a lot of conversation surrounding Washington's quarterback position, obviously, with the news of Lamar Jackson getting the non-exclusive franchise tag. I want you to take a listen to what Rich Eisen had to say.
From what I heard at the combine and people I was talking to when the subject matter came up, and Rivera came into the booth, and I know what coaches say in front of cameras and microphones is not in a court of law, but I think they kind of dig the kid they drafted last year. I think they dig Sam Howell. I think that Sam dropped way lower than his talent level normally would have him drafted. And thanks for the call. Do you remember when we had Mac Brown on our program prior to the draft last year? And he was pounding the table for Sam and said we didn't do him any favors.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah.
A lot of kids laughed that the program wasn't ready to be surrounded for him in his draft year, his walk year, if you will. I think the Commanders like him a lot, and I think he's going to be week 1 starter. And I think they're ready to see what they have in him, which is the way, again, that all these teams should go. I mean, do you know how expensive Lamar Jackson will be in draft choices and salary cap space? You better be sure.
What if
Yes?
Washington has a new owner who doesn't care how much things cost?
Is a warm place freeze over? Has it frozen over? Because I flew back from Indianapolis.
Not yet. Just saying.
It's been, I got to the show late. Again, I didn't check the weather. Has a very warm place frozen over?
Not that I've
Okay.
read on Twitter. There's been some outages. just throwing that out there. Never know. Somebody who would have $250 million to throw in escrow, might buy the team. That's all I'm saying.
It's got nothing to do whether the owner can actually afford it. There is still a salary cap in this league.
Well, we know that's all.
And I know that you can fudge it
Funny
and
math.
this and that and what
Funny
the other thing, but not when somebody says it's all guaranteed. There's no funny math there, brother. It's all there.
So he said Washington is doing it the right way. He feels like they really believe in Sam Howell. I think most of us understand that this group believes in Sam Howell, as I do as well. And I know a lot of you. So I want to start by saying this. I was absolutely blown away by the amount of responses I received on the Lamar Jackson video, the last call for Lamar Jackson here in Washington video that I put out the other day. I wasn't blown away by the amount of responses. I expected that to really incite emotion out of a lot of you. And I was expecting a ton of responses, which I got. And I thank each and every single one of you who commented and engaged in dialogue in the comment section of that video, because it really was fun to read all the interaction between, various camps, people who felt, were on one end of the spectrum, people that were on the other end, people that kind of on the fence that didn't really know which way to go, and the back and forth dialogue that transpired in the comment section there. However, I was absolutely taken aback by the amount of go get Lamar comments. I did not expect. In that comment section, I had over 600 comments, and I was expecting maybe 60-40, go get Lamar. Maybe 55-45, go get Lamar. I expected go get Lamar to supersede the amount of people that wanted to just stand pat with Sam, continue to build. You don't want to spend on Lamar, or you don't want to give up what it's going to take. You don't want to, pay him the money he's looking for, this, that, and the third. I knew all of that stuff was going to be a topic of discussion and something that a lot of you were going to have concerns about. What I wasn't prepared for was the amount of people that said, to hell with all of that shit. Go get Lamar right now. Whatever you got to do. It was every bit of 80 to 85% of you that said, go get Lamar. What are you waiting on? Do it now. I was shocked. I didn't expect that. Well, maybe I should have, but I did not expect that overwhelming response to, hey, do whatever you got to do. Go get him. That said, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but a lot of teams have said they're out on Lamar Jackson. Every day, 2 or 3 more teams add their name to the list of teams that are, quote unquote, out on Lamar. I don't think anybody's out on Lamar, okay, permanently. I think they're out on Lamar right now because, as I've mentioned, they've got options. Like a team like the Patriots coming out and saying they're out on Lamar. Yeah, right. You got Mac Jones. Are you giving up on Mac Jones after, 2 seasons? Is that what we're doing in New England? That's how you feel? Like, yeah, you're out on Lamar. You got a quarterback already. You don't need to come out and say you're out on Lamar. But, teams like Miami, who, Tua's health is up in the air, the Falcons, who have Desmond Ridder, maybe, and they're in a very similar situation to the one that we're in, where they drafted a quarterback in the exact same draft class as we did, the 2022 NFL draft, which was last year's draft. Okay, they took Desmond Ridder. We took Sam Howell. They took Desmond Ridder in the 3rd round. We took Sam Howell in the 5th round. Desmond Ridder got to start the last 3 games of the season, went 2-1. Washington started Sam Howell, 1 game at the end of the season. He won that game. They want to see what Desmond Ridder is about. We want to see what Sam Howell is about. So it's a very similar situation. The biggest difference is the Falcons sit at 8 in the draft within striking distance of getting a quarterback. Theoretically speaking, if they wanted to, they could either move up or sit still and draft a quarterback, i.e. Anthony Richardson at 8. If he were to fall to 8, which I think he should be there, all intents and purposes, he should be there at 8. But I wouldn't discount a team like Carolina sitting there prowling at 9 and saying, hey, I'll jump up to 6 or I'll jump up to 7 in front of Atlanta to get Anthony Richardson. Once the first 3 quarterbacks are gone, if Will Levis is already gone by then, which I surmise he would be gone by then, because in my mind, 3 out of the first 4 teams in the draft will need a quarterback. Chicago's going to trade out of 1, and wherever they go, but whomever trades up to 1 is coming to get a quarterback. Houston's taking a quarterback at 2, and Indy needs a quarterback at 4. So in my mind's eye, 3 out of the first 4 teams in this year's draft class will select a quarterback. And then again, Arizona's sitting there at 3. They got Kyler Murray. That could be a hot spot to jump in front of Indianapolis if you think they're going to take a quarterback, which you should think they're going to take a quarterback. So again, anything could happen. I said all of that to say this. A lot of teams are out on Lamar. I don't necessarily believe them. But when the Commanders say they're out on Lamar, I do believe them. Because I think they really, truly believe in Sam Howell. Okay? So, and you heard Rich Eisen talk about how smitten he thinks the Commanders truly are with Sam Howell. And Ron's told us this. I told you one thing about Ron. Ron, you can say a lot of things about him. And trust me, we've said a lot of things about Ron, okay, over the last 3 years. We've said a ton about him. You guys probably more so than myself, but I've had my fair share of meltdowns on Ron Rivera during the course of the season, so I'm guilty as charged as well. However, I've always told you Ron is no dummy. That's the one thing I've always been consistent with is you can say what you want about Ron, but he's no dummy, okay? Ron's a smarter guy than you guys give him credit for. And one of the things Ron has been very consistent in saying about Sam Howell is we had a 2nd-round grade on him. And if not for Carson Wentz, we would have been prepared to take him in the 2nd round, okay? But they didn't feel the need to pull the trigger on a quarterback because they thought they had the guy in Carson Wentz, and they were looking to build the roster around him. And so they weren't interested in drafting a quarterback, but they got to the 5th round and they looked up and they're like, this guy's still here. We had a 2nd round grade on him. What is he still doing here? Never mind that. Let's just take him. And so they did. And hopefully we got ourselves a pleasant surprise in the 5th round. Everyone that I've listened to talk about Sam Howell, people that were either his coaches at North Carolina or that were close to him in the process, feel like this kid's got star written all over him. Whether it was his offensive coordinator when he was there. We talked about him when we were looking for our offensive coordinator. All right. Whether it's his former head coach, Mac Brown. You just heard Rich Eisen talk about Mac Brown and what he said about, Sam Howell and how he was, essentially standing on the table saying somebody is going to get this kid and they're going to get themselves a hell of a QB. That's been the consistent theme I've heard from people. The demeanor we've seen from Sam since he's gotten here, the play on the field has to at least spark a bit of intrigue in you as a fan. You may not be sold on Sam Howell, but you have to at least be intrigued by the tools he brings to the table and what he could potentially be for this franchise. But I was shocked at how many people were like, to hell with Sam Howell, to hell with, and I get it. I mean, you're talking about a known commodity against an unknown commodity. We have no idea what Sam Howell is going to do. We know what Lamar Jackson, when healthy, is all about. And so while he hasn't had a ton of postseason success as Lamar Jackson, the regular season success is off the charts. And look, at this point, we would take winning a ton in the regular season to give us a chance in the postseason, because right now we're not doing either. We're not winning enough in the regular season to even have a chance in the postseason. So we would just like an opportunity. And with the NFC, and this is the thing that makes it so intriguing, if you could find a way to put together a squad right now as the NFC is constructed, you can do damage right now. The NFC has never been this wide open before. There's always been at least one future Hall of Fame quarterback standing in the way of any garbage team or any lesser team's prospects of making it all the way to the chip. There's always been a Brady. There's always been a Russell Wilson. There's always been a Aaron Rodgers. There's always been a Drew Brees. There's always been some quarterback that is going into the Hall of Fame standing in the way. If you thought maybe we could sneak in this year, no, the hell you can't. Not past Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No, the hell you cannot. Not past Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. No, the hell you cannot. Not against Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. You're not sneaking past any of those teams. Try again. Not against whomever's that quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams and Sean McVay and that group. Good luck. Shit's wide open right now. Literally, and it pains me to say this, it's literally Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles who seem like the team to beat in this conference. I wouldn't dismiss San Francisco if they can figure out their quarterback situation either. That's a dangerous team as well. But this conference is wide ass open and we know it. So if you could just, and that's why I think a lot of people are like, just go get Lamar. We got a shot. I get it. But I was shocked at the overwhelming response to you guys wanting to go out and get Lamar Jackson. I did not see that coming. Anyway, thank you guys for the participation. I was so captivated by all the responses. I literally sat for like an hour and a half and just read all of the comments in the comment section. Like I couldn't just read one or two and then put it away. I just kept reading and watching the back and forth banter between some of you. Someone would leave a comment, someone would go in and say something, and somebody would say something else, and the person that made the original comment would come back and say something. And I was just reading everything. It's crazy. It was fun to read. But anyway, I digress. Wide receiver coach. Let's briefly talk about that. So I talked to you guys about the wide receiver coach position and how we hadn't filled it yet. And I said, that's something to keep an eye on, right? And, we'll see what happens. So what we're gonna do first is let's look at these compensatory picks first, and then after that we'll take a look at the wide receiver position, wide receiver coach position. So compensatory picks were released today. All right, and so as expected, Washington ended up with 2 compensatory picks this year. We got the 3rd rounder because of Brandon Sheriff leaving and signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was a big time move there. And remember, there's an equation for compensatory picks, but most of it hinges upon what you lose versus what you bring back in. We pretty much were radio silent in free agency last year because of what we did with Carson Wentz. And we had to let go of guys. So we really weren't out signing anybody. And any signings that we made, they were low budget, cost effective signings like F.A. Obata, right? So we really didn't spend any money, but we lost guys that went and got some good money elsewhere. DeAndre Carter obviously went and got a solid contract from the Chargers. Brandon Sheriff left, got him some solid money, so forth and so forth. So we have the 3rd round, which is the highest you can get. We literally have the 2nd highest compensatory pick in this year's draft behind Arizona's. So remember, we gave away a 3rd round pick. We essentially recouped it with this compensatory pick. So you don't feel as bad. It doesn't sting as much. And then we also got a 6th rounder as well. So you're feeling good about where you sit in the draft this year. We have a pick in each of the rounds this season. I got to check the 5th to make sure. I'm pretty sure we have a 5th round pick. Don't quote me on that, but the 3rd was the only round we weren't going to have a selection, but we were all banking on getting a compensatory pick in the 3rd round because Brandon Sheriff signed with Jacksonville last year, and we got it. So got 2 compensatory picks, did Washington. You should feel good about that. I know I do. And it takes away the pressure of feeling the need to have to trade back. Remember last year when we gave Indy the 3rd round pick, and we talked about this. I think I even talked about this on the last show I put out, the need to trade back and how desperate Martin Mayhew was to trade back. That desperation doesn't exist this year. If you want to trade back, you can, but you don't have to. We felt like we had to. And I love Jahan Dotson, but who knows? Chris Olave may turn out to be the better receiver. I'm perfectly content with Jahan Dotson, and what he brings to the table. But you could have got Chris Olave at 11 if you didn't have to trade back. You could have gotten Chris Olave at 11. Instead, you moved back, you picked up picks, and ultimately, and we've already said this, if Sam Howell turns out to be QB1 for us moving forward, then that will go down as one of the biggest trades in Washington franchise history. It'll be the biggest trade in Commanders history by far and away, right? But it'll go down, and we've had some big time trades. The highway robbery of the Saints with the Ricky Williams deal back in '99. I mean, the Sean Gilbert trade with the Rams. Like, we've gotten away with highway robbery before, but if we get Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson in the same draft, not to mention Cole Turner, we'll see what he turns out to be. But if that ultimately turns out to be the case, and Brian Robinson, we netted him from that draft as well, that trade. If all of those things pan out for us, but look, forget about all the rest of those players. If Sam Howell pans out, everybody else, Jahan Dotson and Brian Robinson and anybody else we netted from that draft, that's all icing on the cake. The cake, however, is Sam Howell. Then that'll go down as one of the biggest trades in franchise history. So anyway, I digress. 2 compensatory picks for the Commanders in the upcoming 2023 draft. Let's take a look at the wide receiver coach search and how that's going. So the Commanders finally have made a hire in that department. Now, I was adamant that this team was going to bring Greg Lewis in from Kansas City. And the longer we went without hearing anything, the more suspicious I became and the less likely, Greg Lewis to Washington was going to become a thing. And sure enough, Greg Lewis ended up signing today with the Baltimore Ravens to become their new wide receivers coach. Why? Because the Ravens tight ends / receivers coach is now in Washington. Bobby Ingram is now going to be hired as the Commanders wide receivers coach. And so let's read this tweet from Grant Paulson, who covers the team, who writes, sources, Bobby Ingram is being hired as Commanders wide receivers coach. Eric Bieniemy makes an important hire to his developing staff. Ingram was a good NFL player before getting into coaching. He previously coached receivers and tight ends in Baltimore and was on Wisconsin's staff last year. He says, and then so John Keim retweeted this and also put the following to add to this tweet here from Grant Paulson. In addition to Bobby Ingram, wide receiver coach, and Shane Tobe, offensive quality control, the Commanders hired Reggie Howard to be their defensive quality control coach. Staff complete. So everything that we were waiting on to fill out the rest of the cabinet has been done. So now the coaching staff is set. And so now we don't have to talk about that anymore. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Now we know who all will be here coaching up these players. And I want to go back to the opening statement about Ron Rivera doing things different this year, going out and hiring Tavita Stevens, all right, and bringing him in here and making him the quarterback's coach. He could have just continued status quo with Ken Zampese, not shaking the tree at all, but he did. He gave Ken Zampese a different title, a different role, brought in a 36-year-old quarterback's coach here in Tavita Stevens to get, or excuse me, I keep calling him Tavita Stevens, Tavita Pritchard. I knew a Tavita Stevens, and I keep doing that. Tavita Pritchard brought him in here from Stanford, you know, a young coach who's played the position that I think, and I've talked about this team needs more energy. You know, that's why I was kind of sad to see Chris Harris go. I was kind of sad to see the wide receivers coach go because those guys were young, they were energetic, and I didn't think there was enough of that on this staff. But you're bringing in Bieniemy, who's a big ball of energy, as we've already seen. You're bringing in Bobby Ingram, who, as Grant Paulson said, was a really good receiver in his career, you know. And so guys that have experience playing in the league, that resonates with the players. So I'm anxious to see what Bobby Ingram can do. I don't know if he's any good as a coach. I can only tell you he was a really good player. And if he had anything to do with the tight ends and their development in Baltimore, then that's a stamp and a badge on his lapel. If he's got anything to do with the way the receivers developed in Baltimore, you take that same stamp and badge that you put on his lapel and you say, give me that shit back. So we'll see what he's about, you know, here in Washington. But I don't have a problem with the hire. And I like that they went away. Ron went away from his comfort zone. He could have kept Scott Turner and defended him and talked about injuries to the offensive line and talked about this, that, and the third. He said, no, got rid of his ass. Okay. He could have went and got some retread offensive coordinator, someone that's been in the league like Pat Shermer for a number of years. And we could have been, you know, bitching and moaning and complaining, but that would have been that. But he didn't do that. He went and he waited out the process, waited for Eric Bieniemy, and brought him here. He could have said, Ken Zampese's doing a fine job at quarterback's coach. We don't need to do anything. He didn't do that. He shook the tree. He went out and got Tavita Pritchard, brought him here, made him the new quarterback's coach, gave Zampese a different title, shuffled the deck a bit, and then he could have said, you know what? We're going to try to do everything we can to retain our wide receivers coach, Drew Terrell. We're going to try to keep some of these guys here. He said, no, if you've got an opportunity, go pursue that. We'll find another guy. He could have went and got someone he was comfortable with or somebody that recommended him, hey, I know this guy, or, you know, no. He said, Eric, you find a wide receivers coach that you're comfortable with. Eric does that by going and getting Bobby Ingram. So I like the direction Ron is going in. Again, all of this could be for naught. None of this shit could work. And at the end of the day, Ron could have egg on his face and a pink slip in hand as he walks out of the door. But I got to commend him for making changes. You want different results, do different things. The first 3 years, he kept doing the same shit over and over, banging his head up against a brick wall. And finally, he realized, I got a big-ass knot on my head and the same shit, same results. How about I try something different? I give him credit for that. So, there's that. So, wide receiver coach search done. Cabinet complete. Staff is done. Now, focus can be turned to free agency, which is what we are about to do. So before we jump into the free agency discussion tonight, I want to first say that I feel very strongly that Washington is going to be aggressive in free agency, but maybe not the aggressiveness that you're looking for. When I tell you they're going to be aggressive, much like they were 2 years ago when they went out and got Curtis Samuel and William Jackson III relatively early in the free agency process, I think it's going to be along the lines of that. I'm not telling you that they're going to be hyper aggressive like they were Ron's first year when they were turning over the roster and they went out and signed like 18 dudes, none of which cost them a boatload of money. I think Kendall Fuller and his 4-year, $40 million deal was the most expensive out of the group. There are a lot of 1-year and 2-year deals, 2-year deal for J.D. McKissick, 2-year deal for Cornelius Lucas, 2-year deal, a 3-year deal for Wes Schweitzer that was like roughly $13.5 million. Things like that. There were a lot of those, right? I don't think we're going to be in that boat. I think we're going to be in the 2021 offseason of Curtis Samuel and William Jackson III, where they might make a big splash here or there, couple of names, maybe a few ancillary guys that you don't really know about, and that'll be that, right? So here are the positions that I think Washington is going to be aggressive in looking to add in free agency. Now, will they actually come up with a few guys to sign on the dotted line? I don't know, but here are the positions that I'm keying in on, and you guys can add into this conversation if you'd like. I think we know for a fact, like this is not optional, this is not up for debate. We are 100% certain Washington is going to add a veteran quarterback. So that's not something that we have to discuss, debate, or any of that, or not discuss because we're going to discuss it. That's not something we need to debate, okay? They're adding a veteran. Will it be our guy, Taylor Heineke, or will it be an outsider? That remains to be seen. We'll talk about that tonight. So we know that's going to take place. I don't think they're looking to add anything to the running back position, especially after bringing back Jonathan Williams on a 1-year deal. And I know you guys saw that they brought back Jonathan Williams. And I think I even mentioned it in one of the videos in passing that they brought him back on a 1-year deal. They also brought back David Mayo, which I know a lot of you don't care to hear, and neither do I, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, I don't see them pursuing any running backs in free agency. I could see them drafting a running back late in the draft. I could see that. I wouldn't rule that out. But I don't see them pursuing anybody in free agency. Thus, I don't think that's something we needed to discuss tonight. Wide receiver. I could see them adding a receiver, but I don't see them they already added one in Marcus Kemp. We talked about that already. I don't really even know if he's a guy that they truly see impacting this team from a production standpoint. More so, he can come in, help guys learn the scheme. If it's some carryover from Kansas City from a verbiage standpoint, all of that good stuff, but also special teams. Cam Sims was a core special teamer. He can come in and be that type of guy, again. So I could see them because, again, I feel like we need a kick returner. We need a punt returner. Like, if you want Antonio Gibson to stay on kickoffs, fine by me. I didn't see any problems with him doing that. But why put him on that when you can just get a guy that can do both, return kickoffs and punts, and just nip that in the bud, all right? So a guy like DeAndre Carter is available again. Now, I don't know if you want to go back up that tree again. You already passed him over. You let him go after. He had a really good season for you. I don't think you're going to – and Ron has shown us he's very stubborn that once he gets rid of a guy, he's not looking to go back and bring that guy back into the mix because he could have went out and got – Eric Flowers. He was available all offseason, all season long last year. He could have went and got Landon Collins, and he never did. Okay, even after Cole Holcomb got banged up, even after we had some injuries in the secondary, specifically to Cam Curl, he could have went and got Landon Collins when the season first started, because Cam Curl missed the first 2 games of the season. He didn't. So I don't see him going back up that tree again. However, I don't see them attacking receiver and spending any money on that. If they're going to do anything, I could see them throwing a draft pick at receiver. I can't see them spending money on that position. Not when you've got 3 receivers locked in already, a 4th in De'Ami Brown, who started to emerge a bit last year, and you still got Dax Milne. I just don't see them spending money there. If anything, a draft pick, but not money. Tight end, I don't think they're going to touch that position with the 10-foot pole. Okay. Again, they got 5 guys already that they like here, 4 that are probably going to make the roster. I just don't see them doing anything noteworthy at the tight end position, especially if they're bringing back Logan Thomas, and they're bringing back Logan Thomas. So I bypass that as well. And again, also take into consideration, this is a strong tight end draft class. So if you are looking to upgrade your tight end position, why do it spending money? We can get a guy on a rookie contract and get him under contract for the next 5 years. It doesn't make any sense. That's why it's going to be interesting for these guys that are tight ends that are going into free agency, like Dalton Schultz, for instance. This isn't the year to want to go into free agency looking for some big time money, because teams are looking at the draft and saying, why would I pay you $11, $12, $13 million a year when I can get one of these young boys and we think they can do something similar to you, and I can pay them pennies on the dollar for the next 4 years? No, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, sorry. So I don't see us dipping into the tight end pool. Offensive line, yes, ding, ding, ding. I think they're going to be aggressive, specifically on the interior. I don't see them going out and spending money because tackles cost. You can find a cheap, cost-effective guard. We did it with Wes Schweitzer. And very pleased with the return on investment on Wes Schweitzer. The 3 years, $13.5 million was worth every single penny, despite a couple of years where he had some injuries. He had the concussion this year that kept him out of some games. Wes Schweitzer, when in the lineup and healthy, very effective. You can find guys out on the streets that will cost you, $4.5 million, right? Over, $4.5 million AAV over a 3-4 year span, right? So I think they're going to go interior offensive line, guard specifically, center, guard center combo. I think they're going to be aggressive in that regard. Tackles cost money. And if you're looking for a tackle, I think you're probably better served just drafting a guy and trying to develop him rather than spending big money on a tackle. I just, with wanting to re-sign Daron Payne, knowing that you got to re-sign Cam Curl, knowing that either you're going to have to make a decision on Chase Young and or Montez Sweat, knowing that all those guys are coming down the pipeline, knowing that there's a chance you may want Curtis Samuel back after this season. He's a free agent again. You may want him back. Knowing that all of these things exist, highly unlikely that you go out and you spend money that you probably don't have on a tackle when you can just draft a guy. So don't see them really being aggressive at tackle, but we're still going to take a look at tackle just in case. But they're going to do something at offensive line in free agency. I firmly believe that. I can't guarantee you that, much like I have with quarterback, where we know they're going to bring in a veteran. That's all they've talked about. I can't guarantee you 100% they're bringing someone in. Well, I feel 95% sure they're going to attack free agency aggressively on the interior offensive line, if nothing else. Going to the defensive side of the football. Defensive end is interesting because we signed a guy last year in F.A. Obata, and he played well for us. He's a free agent. Last year, you had to sign someone. And remember, I kept saying, they got to do something. They got to do something. And they did. they don't have to do anything necessarily this year because Chase Young is back. Remember, we knew Chase Young was going to be out for a significant amount of time going into the season. So you needed to have a guy or two. And so they went ahead and signed F.A. Obata. This year, you've got a healthy Montez Sweat, a healthy Chase Young, and you still got James Smith-Williams. You still got Casey Toohill. You still have William Bradley King. You still have Shaka Toney. I don't know if you necessarily feel the need to have to do something, but if that itch exists, we'll look to scratch it tonight. But I don't think they're going to do anything because Chase is back. Last year, Chase wasn't in the mix, and they were forced to do something. I don't think they're going to do anything this year, but we will see. Defensive tackle, I don't think they're going to do anything there. You got Ridgeway. You still have the Bama Wall, obviously. You got Ridgeway. You have Fedarius Mathis coming off of injury. I think they got some young boys still around, David Bada and all those guys that they've been working with over the years. I don't think they're going to do anything there. And again, this isn't a great draft for defensive tackle, but doesn't mean you can't draft a guy, if you are interested in doing that. I just don't see him doing anything at defensive tackle. Linebacker. Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Again, can't be sure that they're going to do anything here. I'm less confident that they're going to get a linebacker in free agency than I am offensive line, on the interior of the offensive line in particular, where it's 100% backup quarterback, 90 to 95% for me in the interior offensive line department. I think linebacker is somewhere in the 60 to 70% range. I feel like they're going to be aggressive in there, but they may not come away with a guy. I think they will come away with someone there because we haven't heard anything about Cole Holcomb being brought back. Cole Holcomb's still in the mix. And I think this is why they're going to be allowed to be somewhat aggressive, but not necessarily have to go gung-ho. Because Cole Holcomb's coming off of a season where he only played the first half. I think his last game of the season was Green Bay, which was week 7, I believe. Didn't play the remainder of the season. And so no one's really sniffing around Cole Holcomb. I looked at the NFL.com's top 100 free agency list, and they had Cole Holcomb at 50, which was a lot higher than I thought he would be on anybody's list. 50 is high considering he only played in 7 games last year. That said, and I always tell you guys, somebody's always eyeballing your stuff. You think it's safe. We're like, nobody wants Ryan Grant, Mr. Fall Down. The Ravens was like, hey, I'll take him. I was like, Ryan Grant? Really? Okay. Somebody's always eyeballing your stuff. So, I don't really know if they have to be super aggressive because they could put some feelers out there for some of these linebackers, but if the money gets a little bit too much for them, because some of these dudes are going to make some bread, right? If the money gets a little too crazy for them, they could always say, hey, Cole, what's good, bro? And they got a fallback plan, I think. So I think they're going to go in there. They're going to stick their toe in the linebacker pool. If that water's a bit too cold for them, they're like, hey, Cole, what's good, man? You want to sign this 1-year prove-it deal? You want to sign this 3-year deal, with incentives that could push it up if you stay healthy and you perform at a high level? We love you, man. That could happen too. They're going to do something at linebacker, though. I can't see them standing pat at linebacker. I think this is a double dip situation, similar to the offensive line, where you get something in free agency and then you turn around and you get something in the draft. I think the linebacker position is a double dip. You get something in free agency, and then you probably need to turn around and get something in the draft. Now, them bringing back David Mayo, and potentially he's not back yet, but he's a restricted free agent, so I assume he'll be back. That being the Michigan linebacker. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. But with them bringing those guys back, obviously you got Jamin Davis coming back. I think they brought back another one of those practice squad linebackers that they've liked, Milo Eifler. He's back too. They may not feel as desperate at linebacker as we do. I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of Milo Eifler. I'm sick of David Mayo. I'm sick of having guys that don't actually impact this team on the field defensively on Sundays. I'm sick of it. All right. I would like them to go out and get someone, preferably multiple guys, at least two, that can step on the field and help us in a pinch. One guy starts and the other guy, if he needs to be pulled off the bench, can help. We'll see what they decide to do. Anyway, so linebacker, I think something's going to get done. Corner, I don't think anything will be done there in free agency because it costs. Corners aren't cheap and they aren't free. Where you're sitting in a perfect position in the draft at 16 to probably get your hands on a corner if you so desire, right? So the likelihood is Washington won't be aggressive in free agency at the cornerback position. And I don't think they need to be because, again, you struck out on William Jackson III. They went super young with the young boys they brought in the waiver wire, realm, snatching guys off of the practice squad of other teams and things of that nature. Wild Goose, Castro Fields, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think they're going to go out and get a veteran and pay him any money. They did that already. It didn't work. I think they're going to go the rookie route if they decide to do that by going out, drafting a young guy, pairing him with Benjamin St. Juste. You still got the wily veteran on the roster in Kendall Fuller. Danny Johnson showed some good things at the end of the season. You still need a nickel. You still need a nickel. You still need a nickel. So maybe instead of them attacking boundary corner, they go after the nickel and Brian Branch. Who knows? We'll see what they decide to do. But I don't think they're going to attack corner in free agency. Safety, same deal. Don't think they're going to do anything in free agency. I could be wrong about that. Safeties usually don't cost you a ton, especially if you're looking for a bargain, bin deal. But I think, again, if they're going to do something safety-wise, they're going to continue with the trend of bringing in a young guy. If they decide to go the veteran route, they may do it like they did with Bobby McCain. That'll happen in like May. Remember Bobby McCain gets released, because everybody's got their roster, before the draft. And then after you draft some guys, you start cutting bait. Like, okay, don't need you now. Got another guy in the draft. We didn't know we were going to get him. Don't need you now. We drafted two of those guys. Didn't know we were going to slip up and be able to get two, but we did. So we don't need you anymore. So you always want to keep yourself available in case. That's how we got Charles Leno. That's how we got Bobby McCain. You want to be on that aftermarket. After the draft, guys are going to shake free because teams are going to draft players and they start cutting bait. You want to be able to be available to attack the aftermarket. And so we'll see what happens. I don't expect them to do anything at safety or corner. So nothing in the secondary. That said, let's take a look. All right. Enough of me talking without any visuals. Let's take a look. We're going to start with the veteran quarterbacks here. And you see who is at the top of the list. Obviously, we don't want any parts of that. Been there, done that. Don't want to do that again. But as you take a look at the list, Brady's not in this thing. I'm looking at Marcus Mariota here at number 3 on this list. And I'm thinking to myself, he looks like a guy that we probably should be including in the discussion, right? Let me see if I can't add something in here that would make it a little bit easier for you guys to follow along. I think I'm going to try track something down here. See if I got something in my toolbox that will help with this. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. There we go. I do have something. So we will take this and we'll take a look at all of these QBs here. So you got Mariota here. He's 29, right? 29 years old. We saw what he did in Atlanta last year. He's a mobile quarterback. I've been, adamant about how I like my backups. Mariota, to me, is another one of these Teddy Bridgewater, Jacoby Brissett types where I just don't really see him coming in the game and doing anything. I love his legs and his mobility, but too often last year, and this has been his thing throughout his career, he's throwing for 127 yards, and that's that Jacoby Brissett shit, where you're 14 of 23 for 161 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. It's just meh. That's not what I look for in my backup quarterback. How about Baker Mayfield? 27 years old. We saw what he was able to do with the Los Angeles Rams after a rough go of it in Carolina. He was set up for failure in Carolina. He got there late. They threw him to the Wolves, and it didn't go well for him. I like Baker. I don't love Baker, but I don't know if somebody's going to give him a chance to start, if he's going to be in a backup role. I don't know what his situation will be. We've all said that the comp for Sam Howell is Baker Mayfield, right? So wouldn't it be ironic if they brought his clone here to Washington and let him compete with the guy that, for all intents and purposes, everybody said his game mirrors that of Baker Mayfield? That does exist, but I think Baker's looking for an opportunity to start. I don't think he'll be getting that opportunity here, but again, Washington's going to tell whomever they bring in here, hey, we're bringing you in here to compete. I think that's a bunch of crap, but anyway, that's what they're selling us, because they want Sam to come in, prepare as if he's going to be the guy. So I don't think you're going to see them allow, him to rest on the fact that he had a strong finish to the season. Sam Darnold, 25 years old. I didn't even realize he was that young. It seems like he's been through a lot in his brief NFL career. Felt like he was more like 27, 28 years old, similar to Baker Mayfield, but he's 25. I thought he did some good things in Carolina at the end of the season. He's a game manager, but Sam has shown all the ability to run. And I think you can throw Sam in that conversation of something's going to happen. Sam's going to throw 3 picks, or he's going to throw 2 touchdowns and run for another one. I wouldn't mind Sam Darnold. I wouldn't. I like him. He's young. He's mobile. I wouldn't have a problem with Sam Darnold being brought here. That's just me. Jimmy Garoppolo's out of the mix. Teddy Bridgewater is definitely in the mix here. Unfortunately, I want no parts of Teddy Bridgewater. He's morphing into the new Ryan Fitzpatrick, where if he's on your team, your starter's going to get hurt and somehow he's going to end up playing for you. But even in the last 2 or 3 years, he's played and he himself has gotten injured. So not even are you guaranteed to get Teddy in there and have him be healthy enough to finish the game or cover the team for the 3 weeks that you need him to. We saw way more of the Dolphins' third-string quarterback. In hell, we saw him in the playoff game, if you recall, their third-string quarterback, because Teddy wasn't able to play. So I'm not really interested in Teddy, and plus Teddy's one of these meg dudes that he comes in and, again, much like Jacoby Brissett, not going to move the needle one way or the other. I'm not interested. I'm good, but they're going to be interested. That's for sure. Case Keenum, been there, done that. Mason Rudolph, not interested. Jacoby Brissett, let's move the needle there, because we know for a fact that Jacoby Brissett is always a viable option for a team in the position that we are in. I don't love it, but I know better than to count him out, because he's everybody's stopgap quarterback. And so I could see him definitely being in the mix in Washington. he's my poster child for exactly what I'm not looking for in a backup quarterback. So I'll pass on him, but I know they're going to consider him for sure. And I would say he's probably one of the leaders in the clubhouse to be here, to be added to the roster, just so you know. No on Joe Flacco. Andy Dalton is definitely in the mix here. 35 years old. I thought he actually played really well at times for New Orleans last year. I definitely think that he's in the mix. I wouldn't count Andy Dalton out at all. He's exactly the kind of quarterback that they're looking for to come in, not only compete with Sam, but also mentor him. He's 35 years old. He's been in the league for over a decade. He's got a lot of knowledge to impart on a young quarterback like Sam Howell, and I think they would probably really love the fact that he could come in and mentor him. So don't discount Andy Dalton. Mike White of the Jets, fantastic when he was healthy for them. I actually think he's going to make some solid money out on the free agent market. I think a little bit more than what we would be willing to pay a backup quarterback because of his work in New York with the Jets. Hell, I'd be shocked if the Jets didn't bring him back, honestly speaking. Even if they go out and get Aaron Rodgers, I think Mike White would be a guy that the Jets would probably be remiss if they didn't bring back. But I would be interested in Mike White. I have no problems bringing him here to Washington. I mean, if you truly wanted to convince us you were bringing in a guy to compete, Mike White's the guy, personally. That would actually be dangerous. I wouldn't recommend that they do that because shit might be too close. Like, we want to bring in a bum-ass veteran who is riding into this bitch with 3 wheels. One of them is flat, and you're like, bro, there's no way Sam's losing to this guy, right? Mike White's, all of his tires are inflated. They're ready to go. Shit, he might even have some rims on that bitch. And he's trying to convince us that they 20s. You're like, bro, it's clean, but they not 20s. He's like, all right, man, they 15s. Yeah, we knew. But he still got rims on them, though. I wouldn't mess with Mike White, but he's interesting. Kyle Allen, been there, done that. Our guy, Taylor Heineke, I think most people would prefer us to just go, and I'm in that group that would just bring Taylor back. Now, Taylor's already made it abundantly clear if the Packers are interested, he'd like to play for the hometown squad, the team that he grew up rooting for. So there's that. But, you know, with Scott Turner no longer being here, like, that was the bridge to Taylor Heineke being here in Washington with Scott Turner. Like, you know the situation where you're not really friends with Brandon. You're actually friends with Andrew. But because you're friends with Andrew and Andrew's friends with Brandon, you just kind of end up linking up with Brandon. But really, the link to y'all actually being cool is Andrew. Well, that's kind of how the situation is with Taylor Heineke. Like, hey, we cool with Taylor, but we only cool with Taylor because of Scott. Well, Scott's no longer here. We're not cool with Scott no more. So are you still cool with Taylor? It just depends on what kind of relationship you develop with him over time. Like, did y'all get cool enough to where you didn't need to be on the phone with Andrew to include Brandon in the conversation? Were you just calling Brandon directly like, yo, I'm going to the mall, you trying to kick it? Or, hey, Andrew and I are going to the mall, you can come if you want. If that's the way the relationship is, then Taylor ain't coming back. If you started hitting Taylor up and saying, bro, we about to go kick it at the mall, walk around a little bit. Hey, if you down, you can roll. And he's like, yo, is Andrew coming? Nah, Andrew ain't coming, but I mean, I'm saying if you want to come, you can. And he still wants to roll, then he might be back here in Washington. So it's going to be interesting. I would prefer Heineke because I know what I'm getting. I know what he's about. He's got a good relationship with Sam Howell, and he knows he's a backup here. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He'll come in and compete, but Taylor's all about, you know, the backup role. He knows what it is. I thought Blaine Gabbert retired. Maybe he did, and he just didn't formally put in his papers. I wouldn't want him here anyway. Same with Chase Daniel, rather. Nick Mullins, I'm good on him. He's a guy that you have to consider, though. You can't rule him out. He's 27 years old, been in the league a little while, played enough football to be dangerous, not enough to win the job. I mean, he's exactly the type of guy that I expect them to bring in here. I'm just not interested in Nick Mullins. Drew Lock, I'm definitely interested in Drew Lock. I got a thing for Drew. I don't know why. I need to let it go because Drew stinks. But I don't know. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. So I know one thing's for sure. Drew's going to come in and some shit's going to happen. Most of it is bad, though. I don't have enough instances of Drew doing good shit to warrant saying, hey, something good or something bad's going to happen. Either way, that's my kind of backup. Usually it's all bad. So I wouldn't mind them bringing Drew Lock in here, but I probably should pass on him. Brandon Allen, I'm good on him. Josh Johnson, been there, done that. Don't need to do that again. Nate Sudfeld, same deal. Been there, done that. Don't need to do it again. Nathan Peterman, yeah, that's nasty. I'm good. Jeff Driscoll is interesting. I wouldn't mind them bringing him in. Mobile quarterback with some legs, can throw it a little bit. We saw him in Houston last year, almost beat the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas last year. If not for some suspect play calling late in that game, I think he might have pulled off the upset on the road. Seen him in Cincinnati. He's actually been a solid backup NFL quarterback. When pressed into action, I wouldn't have a problem with him, honestly speaking. Cooper Rush, we saw him up close and personal last year. Preferably, I'm good on Cooper Rush, but if they brought him in, I wouldn't be upset. He did exactly what the Cowboys needed him to do for them last year. Honestly, Dallas would be a damn fool not to bring him back. That's just, as a wise man always says to me, that ain't on the fake side, that's on the real side. Like, I don't understand how they could let him leave after what he did for them last year. But we'll see what they do. Brett Rippon, I'm good on him. Tyler Huntley, I'm also good on him. I know a lot of you love Tyler Huntley, would love to bring him to Washington. Nah, I'm good. I'll pass. He fits right into that same Teddy Bridgewater, Jacoby Brissett narrative. He'll come in here, go 19 of 28 for 162 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and you'll lose a game 19-17 fooling around with him because you can't score no damn points. I'm good. I'll pass. Thanks, but no thanks. John Wofford, I'm good on him. Philip Walker, he's interesting. I wouldn't do him. Pause. But he's got some mobility. Boy, is he inaccurate. I can't fool around with him because too many times balls are sailing all over the damn place with him. I'll have to pass on him. Trace McSorley, watched him in Arizona last year. Ugh, that's nasty. Jarrett Stidham, very intrigued by him. The Raiders, he's got to be going back to the Raiders. Got to be going back to Vegas. Josh McDaniels loves this kid. There's no way he's leaving Vegas. Bryce Perkins, that's a hard no for me. Easton Stick, I'm good. I'll pass there. Gardner Minshew is definitely in the mix. I am not a Gardner Minshew fan, but as I've mentioned already, he's exactly what I've described that I like in a backup quarterback. He's going to come in and some shit's going to happen. Is it going to be good? I don't know. Is it going to be bad? I don't know, but something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. So I wouldn't be upset at him. And Shane Buechele, I'm good on him. I really haven't seen a lot of him in the league. So I will pass on Shane Buechele. So that's the quarterback position. Okay. Let's now take a look at tackle. Now, I don't think we're going to do anything here, but I told you guys earlier in the week that I'm just going to bring everything to the table and allow you guys to decide what it is that you think we're going to do. Personally, I wouldn't fool around with tackle, and I don't think they will either. But let's go through this position quickly and see what it is that is here, that exists, that may be intriguing for the Commanders. You start with Orlando Brown. Obviously, He's going to be the catch of free agency. That's way too much for us to spend on a tackle. We're good. Taylor Lewan said that he is interested in playing still, contrary to popular belief, but he's only interested in playing left tackle. He said he cannot play right. That doesn't mean we can't slide old Leno Jr. Over the right tackle because he's played both. Taylor Lewan's 31, pushing 32 years old, injury prone. That just doesn't fit in what Ron's been doing since he got here. Donovan Smith, he's pushing 30, just released by the Bucs. Don't see Washington being interested. Same with George Fant. Cameron Irving is past his prime, whatever that prime was. Mike McGlinchey is interesting. Mike McGlinchey is also going to cost you some good money that we don't probably intend on spending at tackle. Brandon Parker, Andre Dillard, Riley Reif, Eric Fisher, Isaiah Wynn. Again, another interesting guy here. Shorter arms, always thought he was more of a guard, had injury issues in New England, but really solid when healthy. I think he's going to make some money, though. Chris Hubbard, Caleb McGarry is a guy that a lot of people say buyer beware on him. You know, hasn't really been all that good in Atlanta, played his best football in his free agency year, and has had some issues with consistency. And people think that you get this guy and he's going to revert right back to what he was prior to his contract year. I'm good on him because I think he's going to make way more money than we're looking to spend. But he's a guy that a lot of people are saying, hey, be careful. You could get got. Andrew Wiley, Calvin Anderson, Billy Turner, Juwan James, Daniel Brunskill, Kelvin Beachum, Jason Peters. Jawan Taylor is interesting. If we were really looking to upgrade the offensive line, this is a guy that I think I would want to sign right here. Durable, solid player going into the prime of his career, only 25 years old, right tackle, could shore up the right side of our offensive line. If I were going to spend money, this is who I would spend it on right here. Jawan Taylor. Again, I don't think we're looking to spend that kind of money. Greg Little, David Quisenberry, Josh Wells, Cam Fleming, Dennis Kelly, Jermaine Illuminor, Jermaine Affetti, Dakota Dozier, Cedric Abwehi, Marcus Cannon, Ty Nsekhe, been there, done that. Damn, he's still in the league. That's crazy. Mike Remmers, Justin Murray, LaRaven Clark, Brandon Shell, Jerron Christian. Look at our old buddy still hanging in there, man. I thought he was long gone. Hanging in there with the Dolphins. Been there, done that. Don't want to do that again. Ethan Greenwich, Trey Pipkins, Chuma Adoga, Michael Dunn, Colton McKivitz, Dan Skipper, Greg Sanat, Yadni Kajust, Blake Hance, Mike Nelson, Storm Norton. So none of these guys down the stretch. So again, I don't think we're doing anything at tackle. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that is tackle. All right. Now let's take a look at center. All right. So let's pull out our red box and take a look at the center position and see what it has to offer. Now, you start with Rodney Hudson. First of all, you see his age. He's too old. That's number one. Number two, I think he's at the point of his career where if it's not for a contender, he's not interested. I'm not interested in Rodney Hudson at his age. Connor McGovern from the Jets, pushing 30. I'm good. Jason Kelsey, either it's Eagles or retirement for him. Justin Britt, John Feliciano. Garrett Bradbury is interesting. I don't think you're going to have to break him off. I think you can get him for a reasonable price. I'd keep my eye on a guy like him. Bradley Bozeman is another guy I'd keep an eye on. Again, these aren't necessarily starters per se. Maybe Garrett Bradbury is, but Bozeman may not be a starter. He could be your new he could be your new Wes Schweitzer type, right? You're probably more so looking for a guard center where Bozeman is primarily a center. Like you're not getting a guard center combo here. Here's the guy that I would be interested in. And I think we are interested in the center market. Ethan Posick out of Cleveland. Are you going to have to pay him some solid money? Yeah, you're going to have to pay him some solid money. You're not going to get him for pennies on the dollar, but it's not break the bank type of money. I think Ethan Posick would make a great addition to this team. He's only 27 years old, going on 28, so still good football left in front of him. Sign him to a 3-year deal. I think this is the kind of guy that we're looking to bring in. You see our old buddy Tyler Larson on the list. He's 32. Okay, he's 31 going on 32. They're not going to bring him back. The reason they're not going to bring him back is because he's been injured each of the last 2 seasons along with Chase Rouillet. So they're going to look to get younger at center, maybe via the draft, maybe via free agency, maybe via both. I think it may be both, honestly. Larson won't be a part of the future, though. Kyle Fuller, Will Clapp, Jake Brindle, Corey Levin, Nick Martin. He was with us last year out of necessity. We are definitely not going back down that road. While he was a break in case of an emergency that was solid, that's not something that we really want to have to do again. So, and you see he's pushing 30 as well. Matt Skura, no, but this is a guy that I am interested in. I wanted him. Remember, I told you I thought we were going to draft him. I think I mocked us drafting him like 3-4 years ago out of Penn State, Connor McGovern. Dallas got him, and he's been their guard center combo utility man, which is what Wes Schweitzer has been for us. I'd love to sign him as the new Wes Schweitzer. When Dallas was in flux and they had injuries on the offensive line, this was the guy that they would move around. You know, when they needed somebody at center, they'd stick Connor McGovern there, right? And he played really good for them. Then when the center was healthy, they'd move him to guard. When they had issues at tackle and they had to kick Trey Smith out there, they kicked Smith out to tackle. McGovern would go to guard, and then he would insert someone else at center. So he's that utility guy that we need. He's 25 years old. He's young. I think he'd make a excellent addition to our football team. That's a name to keep in mind, is Connor McGovern. Sam Mustipher from the Bears, another guy to keep an eye on. I don't think they're going to move on a guy like this, but you never know. Young, you see his age. Tristan Colon Castillo, J.C. Hausner, and Aaron Brewer. Aaron Brewer is another name to keep an eye on for the Tennessee. The Titans got a lot of quality offensive linemen available in free agency this year. Aaron Brewer is one of them. I think he's going to get some good money. I wouldn't mind paying him. He's a starter, though. You go out and get Aaron Brewer, you're going out and getting a starter, whereas Connor McGovern is a utility backup. So these are the 3 to keep an eye on: Aaron Brewer, Connor McGovern, and Ethan Posick for me. And you know what? Add in a 4th in Garrett Bradbury. Don't discount Bradley Bozeman, but Garrett Bradbury, Ethan Posick, Connor McGovern, and Aaron Brewer are the ones that I think you should keep an watchful eye on as we head into free agency. So we go from there to the guard position, and I saved the best for last in terms of the offense, because this is where I expect us to be very aggressive in the guard market. So let's go ahead and add in our red box as we take a look at all of the guards that exist in free agency that we think may be able to come in and help this ball club out. So let's take a look at what we have. So Justin Pugh, 32 years old, not interested. Roger Saffold, 35 years old, not interested. Matt Pryor, Isaac Suomalu, Wes Schweitzer, there's our guy. So when we signed Wes, he was 26 years old. Now Wes is about, pushing 30. So you see the trend. Ron's going to be looking for a guy in that 25, 26, 27-year-old range, which is what I showed you at center already. I love Wes, but Wes has had some injury issues the last 2 years in particular, and I think they're going to look to go younger on the offensive line. So I think Wes is going to be moving on. Like Maya, he's moving on. Nick Gates, he's interesting when healthy. He's had some injuries in New York. Dan Feeney, Trey Turner, been there, done that. Don't want to do that again. You see where his age is. He's pushing 30 now as well. So long, sayonara, and don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Jesse Davis, Nate Herbig is interesting. Former Philadelphia Eagle. If you're looking for, his name says it all. If you're looking for a big physical guard, he fits the criteria. Not great in the pass department. Doesn't move his feet all that well, but they could be looking for a big space eater in there. Who knows? We'll see. I don't think he's the guy. Here's my guy right here. Remember our old guy, Tom, straight out of Compton? Man, didn't know he was still hanging on. But anyway, let's not bury the lead. This is the guy that I told you in my mock offseason that I thought we would sign. Evan Brown. He's the guard center combo that I think solves all of our problems. Been with the Lions as a backup. When he's gotten an opportunity, he's played very well for them. The Lions would love to have him back. Problem is, they're not looking to pay him 10, 11, upwards of $12 million a year, which we have no problems paying this guy to start for us. So I want him. And I think that's the guy. Look, anything that you can get off of the Detroit Lions offensive line with the way they ran the football and the physicality which they played with last year, sign me up. Sign me up. There's certain offensive lines, Tennessee, Cleveland, Detroit, where you say, hey, they bullying dudes. They bitching up opponents, sticking people's dick in the dirt. If you getting a dude off of one of those offensive lines, you getting a nasty SOB. Evan Brown fits that description. So, and he fits the age range. He fits the price range. I think that's a guy that would make a ton of sense here in Washington. We'll see what they decide to do. Cody Ford is another guy that makes a ton of sense for Washington. Former Buffalo Bill, former Arizona Cardinal. Again, don't necessarily love him in the pass game. Didn't love him in the pass game coming out of Oklahoma. Love him in the run game. So, again, we'll see what they decide to do. Not going to cost you a ton of money. Don't necessarily have to start him, but you can throw him in the mix. So, another guy to keep an eye on. Remember, on the mock offseason layout, Mark Tyler had Cody Ford as a guy that he threw, I think, $13 million, 3 years, $13 million, something like that. A meager interior offensive line, type of deal to Cody Ford. And I don't have any problems with it. I don't love it. I'd rather have Evan Brown, but that's another guy to keep your eye on. Dalton Reisner was a guy that I loved coming out of Kansas State. Has had his ups and downs in Denver. I at first, when this process started, I wanted him bad. But after reading some of the issues he's had in Denver, I kind of soured on him a bit. I've cooled off, including he got into a spat with one of the quarterbacks on the roster. That's just not a good look for your offensive lineman. And he's had some injuries and things. I like him. I don't love him enough to deal with any off the field or any, locker room issues that he may come with. He might be a little too outspoken for me. If you ain't that dude, keep your mouth shut. Aaron Stinney, no. Greg Van Roten, no. Max Scarpering, he was a former Houston Texan, Cincinnati Bengal. I'm good on him. Will Hernandez is a physical guy inside, but, former Giant, former, Cardinal. I'm good. Elijah Wilkinson, Bobby Hart, Max Garcia, Michael Schofield, Ade Abuche, no. Trenton Scott, Austin Schlottman, Colby Gossett, Billy Price, Michael Dieter is interesting. We'll move the needle here. Young guy, 26 years old, going on 27. Quality interior offensive lineman. Again, you can start him. You can have him in the rotation. He fits the age criteria. Another guy that I think they may be taking a look at. Here's a guy that I am definitely interested in. I told you the Titans have a ton of guys available. Nate Davis, he's had his ups and downs, but there have been more ups than downs in Tennessee. 26 years old, going into the prime of his career, really good in the run game. I think he could improve as a pass protector, but there's a lot to like with Nate Davis, and I think he's a guy that they're going to consider as they take a look at the guard position in free agency. Michael Jordan out of Penn State, not interested. Sean Harlow, not interested. Ben Powers is a name that sticks out. Again, don't know if Washington will be interested in him, but another name to consider nonetheless. Nick Leverett, David Edwards, that is definitely a name to watch there. Some quality ball. He can actually play tackle as well, and did for the Rams at times. So you not only get a guard, but you also get a guy that can flare out and play tackle in a pinch as well. Tommy Kramer and Nick Allegretti as well, which those are two names, Tommy Kramer, Nick Allegretti, that I wouldn't dismiss in this process. Either both fit the age criteria. So there's plenty to choose from in this group and pool of guards. And I think we're going to come out with at least one, if not two of these dudes, personally. If we get a center, then we're only going to come away with one guard. If we don't get a center, then we're going to get two guards. I think one is a guard center combo. The other is just strictly a guard. So there is that. Now we transition over to the defensive side of the ball, where you're going to find edge rushers. Okay. I don't think we're doing anything, as I laid out for you earlier. I don't think we're doing anything here, right? However, doesn't mean we can't take a look. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look. This is a very long list, okay? So bear with me as we go through this thing quickly. Actually, I told a story. That's linebacker, all right? Let's go through the defensive end list first. Because linebacker, we know we're going to be active there. Let's go through defensive end first before we attack linebacker. So Frank Clark just got released. Let's get our friend the Red Box out to help us navigate this list. It's a very long list, guys. So again, bear with me as we go through it. And again, a lot of this feels like an exercise in futility because I don't anticipate us really being in a market for an edge rusher, but you never know what their thought process is going to be. So Frank Clark just got released by the Chiefs, not interested. Keep in mind the age of these guys. We're looking to stay young. Quinn, no. Graham, no. Yannick Ngakoue, he does fit, but he's going to cost you some money. We're not, again, if we're going to get a guy, it's going to be a low-level guy, not going to cost you more than a couple $1 million, similar to what we had last year in F.A. Obata. You're not looking to spend top dollar. These guys all here are top-of-the-market type of guys. Jadeveon Clowney, no. Matthew Ioannidis, our old friend Matt Ioannidis, looked at as a defensive end because Carolina used him as such in their defense last year. Obviously, we're not bringing him back. Ashawn Robinson is more of a 3-4 defensive end, not more of a base 4-3 defensive end. He's more of a 4-3 defensive tackle. Larry Ogunjobi, more of a defensive tackle in a 4-3 defense. Akeem Hicks, Cleveland Farrell. He's interesting. Won't cost you a lot of money. First round pick, top 5 pick, stunk it up in Vegas. Maybe with better coaching, he can give you something. I could see Washington sniffing around a guy like this. Not going to cost you anything. Nothing to bring him on board. You don't like him, probably could cut him before the start of the season. He's one of those type of players. If he's a pleasant surprise, great. He's on the team. If not, you move on. Dean Lowry is a guy that I used to love in Green Bay out of Northwestern. He's more of a interior guy, though, or a base 3-4 defensive end. Poona Ford, Samson Ebukam, who I actually really like. We'll take and move this needle down here. He's actually really good, and he's 27 years old. I think he's going to cost you some money, though. Money that we're not spending at this particular position. So we've already got enough money tied up in the defensive line. You're not going to spend real money. So he's going to cost real money. Not monopoly money, real money. You can spend monopoly money on Cleveland Farrell. All right? You can pay him in monopoly money. You can even slide him Baltic Avenue, and he'll be straight with that. Couple of properties, he's fine. You're going to have to pay him in some real money. Samson Ebukam, you're going to have to pay him with real money, which we don't have for the defensive line. DeJuan Smoot, Jordan Phillips, William Golson, Arden Key is very enticing. He's going to cost real money, though. Wow. He's going to cost real money. And he's more of a defensive tackle. I think he does his best work inside, but I don't give a shit. Inside, outside, you can always use guys like Arden Key. I just think he's going to cost you some real money. Money we don't have. Al-Quadin Muhammad, Justin Houston. Let's go ahead and slide this list up. All right. So I think we left off at Justin Houston. So we're now at Marcus Davenport. So we're now at Marcus Davenport. And, Davenport is going to cost you a pretty penny. You're talking about a former first-round pick, when healthy, very disruptive. Can't see Washington spending that kind of money. Rasheem Green, Jaron Reed, Carlos Dunlap, Dante Fowler Jr., solid, right? Solid, but he's going to cost you real money, right? Tyson Alualu, Angelo Blackson, LJ Collier, he's interesting. Don't think he's going to cost you a lot. I think he's a former first rounder out of TCU. One of those wasted Seattle Seahawks late first rounders. If not a first rounder, definitely a second. Either way, I'm not interested, but they may be. Tyquan Lewis, Ohio State former defensive end. Maybe he's got a little bit of juice left. I wouldn't mind kicking those tires. Won't cost you a lot of money. You can pay him in monopoly money, obviously. 28 years old, not too old, still meets that criteria you're looking for age-wise. Solomon Thomas, not interested. Trey Flowers, not interested. Kerry Hyder, not interested. Ben Banagoo, interesting guy. Very, very flexible, Gumby-like. Wouldn't mind taking a flyer out on Ben Banagoo out of TCU, who played for the Indianapolis Colts the last 3 or 4 years. JPP, Kentavious Street, and Stephen Weatherly. Maybe Weatherly you're interested in, but I don't think so. All right. So then you move on from this group to the next group of edge rushers. We're not done yet. So you start up here with Morgan Fox, and you work your way down. Pat O'Connor, F.A. Obata, our old guy, F.A. Obata. He's going to be 31 here shortly, right? So not really in the mix. Gave us some quality snaps, and if they brought him back, I wouldn't have a problem with it. DeMarcus Walker, he's going to actually command some money. I think he's going to make some money on the free agent market. Shaq Lawson, wonder what his value is at this point. You may have to pay him some real money. I don't think you're going to have to pay him real money, though. I don't know. He'd be interesting if you don't have to pay him any real money. Carl Nassib, Jahad Ward, Carlos Watkins, Isaac Rochelle, Sean Williams, Vinnie Curry, Mario Edwards, Stephen Means, Jordan Willis is very, very intriguing, and you're not going to have to break the bank for him. He'd come in, he'd fit this defensive end group perfectly. Solid football player, and he's still young enough at going on 28 to be a guy that would fit in the locker room. This was the guy that I was drooling over right here, but he's going to make real money this year. After the year he just had, the Cardinals, after losing J.J. Watt, would be stupid to let this dude walk away. He's got big-time production, I think, over the next 3 or 4 years written all over him with the way he was playing last year. Love Zach Allen out of Boston College. Draymond Jones is another guy that just is scratching the surface. I think he just figured it out in Denver last year. Long story short, he's about to make some money, I think. Adam Gotsis, Tashawn Bauer. All right. As we move this list up, Tashawn Bauer was the last name that we looked at. So we're now at Jonathan Bullard, excuse me. Jannard Avery. He's interesting out of Tampa Bay. Kind of undersized, though. Deshaun Hand, Michael Dogbe, Isaiah Buggs, Matt Dickerson. Chase Winovich is very interesting here. If you want, to me, you don't need him and Casey Toohill. It's one or the other. All right. We don't need two scrappy, do anything to try to win white boys on the roster. It's only space for one of those dudes. And I guess I prefer ours because, you deal with the devil you know than the devil you don't. Even though I think Winovich is probably actually better. Guess I'll just stick with Casey Toohill. Abdullah Anderson, Chris Odom, Khalid Kareem, Austin Bryant, Jonathan Kongbo, Tershawn Wharton. I remember when Chiefs fans were going crazy over this kid, Tershawn Wharton. What the hell happened there? John Kaminsky, Charles Omenihu. I would love to get my hands on Charles Omenihu. Love. And I don't think he's going to cost you a whole hell of a lot. I could be wrong. But he's one of those secondary pass rushers that the 49ers would throw into the mix. I'd love to get my hands on him. And I don't think it's going to cost you a whole hell of a lot. Anyway, I digress. That is the defensive end position. Now we get to let's get to guard. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So we already did guard, didn't we? Yeah, we already did guard. Excuse me. Let's go to linebacker. That's where we were going. Let's go to linebacker. So it's a lot of guys here. All right. So you got to bear with me with this list, but we'll go through it quickly. All right. Start at the top. I remember when this dude came out, the Steelers actually traded up in the first round with the Denver Broncos to go get him at number 10. That was a draft with the two Devins, Devin White, Devin Bush. If you didn't get one of the two Devins, good luck. You're going to need it at linebacker in that year's draft. Well, 4 years later, and the Steelers weren't pleased with Devin Bush. Their Devin wasn't the right Devin. Okay. So he's a free agent. He's a bit of a head case. I'll pass. Anthony Walker Jr., not interested. Melvin Ingram. So really just interested on the inside linebackers personally. All right. Azeez Al-Shire, I think, is more of an outside backer, but I love this dude. Now, he's got some injury concerns, so not really sure if I'm really looking to fool around with that per se, but yeah, he's interesting. Tyler Matakevich, Okonkwo, Tremaine Edmonds is the prize of this linebacker class, if you will. You're going to have to pay him, and you're going to have to pay him a considerable amount. We are good for it, okay? We're in a position where we can spend, but it's a little dicey because you've got other guys you need to pay. And what you really don't want to do is pay somebody outside of the locker room this absorbent amount of money and then have other guys looking like, bro, really? How much is it going to take to get Tremaine Edmonds to sign on the dotted line is the question. If the numbers are what I think they're going to be, then you can't do it. If you really want him, and let's say, I think 5 years might be too much. That's probably what a team would want. If I'm Tremaine Edmonds, I want a 4-year deal because I want one more bite at the apple. So a 4-year deal, could you get him for 4 years, $72 million? That's 18 per. Could you get him for that? You got to look at it like this. The Ravens traded for and then signed Roquan Smith to a 5-year, $100 million deal. That's $20 million per. Tremaine Edmonds and his agent are probably looking at that deal and saying, I want that kind of money. Now, the pushback is you ain't putting up the kind of, statistics and you're not getting the kind of recognition. If I'm not mistaken, Roquan Smith, I don't know if he's ever been an All-Pro, but he's been knocking on the door of All-Pro status if he hasn't already been an All-Pro. And he's definitely been a Pro Bowler before. Not sure Tremaine Edmonds has been a Pro Bowler before. Not sure about that. He could have been. I'm not sure. I don't care about any of that stuff. That's not my job to argue what he's worth. But your best defensive player on your team right now is Jonathan Allen, and he's not making $20 million a year. Now, granted, different position, this, that, and the third. Cap situation's different now. Cap's going up. When he got his contract, the cap number was down. yada, 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 yada. Still doesn't bode well for the rest of the guys in the locker room when they see this kid coming here making more money than them. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And look, you're going to pay some guys outside of the locker room. That's the nature of the business. I'd love to have him, though. Not my job to figure out the numbers. I don't give a shit about the numbers. I've always told you guys that. You guys get caught up in the numbers way too much. Oh, we're not going to be able to sign this guy and that guy if we sign this guy. Yes, we will. You see how every year the Rams make moves and the Jags make moves and the Saints make moves. And you're like, where are they getting this money from? Where's all this money coming from? I thought they were broke. You can figure this shit out. If you got good cap guys, people that understand how to manipulate and massage the cap, you can make it work. If they want them bad enough, they can make it work. I'm on board. Sign me up. But we have options. You have options. That's the good thing. Denzel Perryman, Duke Riley, Nicholas Morrow, Kaiser White, really good for the Eagles, but he's more of an outside backer. Now, if we're keeping it a buck, if they were looking for a hybrid type of player like a Cam Curl, this is the kind of guy that you'd be looking for right here. He's a direct type, former safety, turned backer with the Chargers. I don't know why the Chargers failed to re-sign him. He goes to Philadelphia Eagles, has a monster year last year for the Eagles. This is the kind of guy that you claim you're looking for, a Cam Curl backup and another guy that can do the things Cam Curl. This is the guy you're looking for right here. Right here. Fits the age. You're not gonna have to break the bank, but he's probably looking to get paid this year because he took a 1-year prove-it deal with the Eagles. Still not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot of money. I like Kaiser White. I would be very interested, but they're not. I don't think they're looking outside backer. Okay, just so you know, I think they're more so fixated on getting a middle backer. Kevin Pierre-Louis, remember that? Remember KPL? Been there, done that. Landon Roberts, Corey Littleton, Robert Spillane. I would just say Robert Spillane in Pittsburgh did a pretty good job considering the circumstances. There were times where he was playing outstanding football. I'm not interested, but if they went out and signed him, he'd be better. He'd be an upgrade over David Mayo. Let's just say that. I'd rather spend my David Mayo allowance on Robert Spillane than keep giving David Mayo my little bit of petty cash that I keep in the glove compartment. Stop giving my petty cash to David Mayo and give it to somebody like Robert Spillane. Malik Reed, Kyle Van Noy, Alex Anzalone. And then we go all the way down here to the bottom to TJ Edwards. A lot of you guys love you some TJ Edwards. He played really well for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Really well. Don't know if I love him, but I like him a lot. But I don't think I love him. But once again, I like it a lot. Anyway, a guy to keep an eye on. 26 years old, fits the time range. He's going to make some good money, but he's not in the Tremaine Edmonds stratosphere in terms of his contract. So he's on that second to third tier of linebacker where you're like, hey, he's right in the wheelhouse. Keep an eye on him. TJ Edwards. All right. Next group, Alex Anzalone, TJ Edwards. We already looked at those guys. Let's see if. Oh, yeah. Oh, buddy. Let me go back. I think we had some more names on this list. Hold on a second. All right. Let's see if we can yank this puppy up. Yep. We got some more names here. So last name we looked at was TJ Edwards. We'll start with Leighton Vander Esch here. And we'll work our way up. So I'm not interested in Leighton Vander Esch. Too many issues with injuries and things of that nature throughout his career. But when healthy, very effective. But I'll pass. Chris Board, Anthony Barr, Neville Hewitt, Nick Vigil, Rashaan Evans was a guy that we were sniffing around last year, kind of taking a peek see. I think I'm good on Rashaan Evans. I think I'm good on him. Tyler Vallejo, Josh Woods, Ezekiel Turner, Quan Alexander. It's crazy to me how many years he's been available and he's still only 28. I'm good on Quan. But damn, I keep thinking Quan has got to be 30 years old already, and he's not. Raekwon McMillan, Jayon Brown. Remember, we were really talking about Jayon last year. End up going to Vegas. I'm good. I'm good on Jayon now. Matthew Adams, Dylan Cole, Jared Davis, our old friend Johnny Boombastic. Ugh, that's nasty. Hopefully, we're done with him now. It seems like he's Chucky or Jason or Freddy. We just can't kill this dude. He keeps coming back. Kame Grugier Hill, Jordan Jenkins. I think there's more to this list. AJ Klein, Luke Gifford, Alex Singleton, Troy Reeder, Micah Kaiser, and Nick Kwiatkowski. So none of those guys moves the needle per se. We move on to our next list. All right. And where were we here? Think we were at Nick Kwiatkowski, if I'm not mistaken. So Ben Neiman is where we'll start. Joe Jones, Joe Thomas, Eric Wilson, Vince Beagle, Jermaine Pratt. Yes, very interested. Now, if you recall, he was the one that was very animated at his teammate in the AFC Championship game against Kansas City. You remember the clip when they're going into the locker room and he's like, damn, why you had to fucking hit him, man? He being defensive end Joseph Osai out of Texas hit Patrick Mahomes out of bounds, 15-yard penalty, game-winning field goal, drive home safely, see you in the Super Bowl. He knew that was probably his last chance in Cincinnati. Now he's a free agent. Hell of a football player. Not going to cost you as much as Tremaine Edmonds, but very, very good. I'd love to add Jermaine Pratt to our football team. Keep an eye out for him. Derek Rivers, Jordan Kuznick. Remember, that's our old buddy Jordan Kuznick. I always get his name wrong. Dakota Allen, Sione Takitaki, Cody Barton, Bobby Okereke. Very intriguing backer here. More of an outside backer. I think he can play inside. 26 years old, going on 27. Has a nose for the football. Can cover. Does a lot of good things, man. I'm interested. So are a lot of other teams. He's going to make some good money. Tyrell Dotson, Christian Welch, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, Chase Hansen. Here's our old buddy, Khaleke Hudson. Difference here is he's restricted. So you see that right there? Restricted free agent. So he's not going anywhere. If we want him back, he'll be back in Washington. And I think after what he did in Week 18 versus Dallas, getting a game ball, et cetera, I think they're going to bring him back. Traven Howard, Javin White. Let's take this list up some more. I told you there are a lot of these backers. So bear with me. I think we stopped at Javin, so we're here now on Chris Bolton. So Chris Bolton, you got Quincy Williams. I actually like Quincy Williams a lot. He's the brother of Quinnen Williams. They both played for the Jets. The Jags actually drafted Quincy Williams. He ended up in New York with the Jets. He's actually a really good linebacker, a little bit of a loose cannon, hits guys out of bounds, that sort of thing, but very athletic. I like him a lot. Plays with, a level of explosion and recklessness that's fun to watch when he's not playing for your team. I'm good, but he's interesting. O'Shane Eximinis, Jameer Jones. Shout out to O'Shane, former ODU Monarch. Jonas Griffith. Milo Eifler. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're bringing Milo back again. I think. I could be wrong, but I feel like I saw that already. Anyway. Anthony Nelson. Drew Tranquil is another guy. I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. Drew Tranquil is effing fantastic. He's a former safety turned linebacker, so he fits that hybrid mold that we're looking for, that guy that can do a little bit of everything, that can back up Cam Curl. Again, much like Kaiser White, Drew Tranquil is that Swiss Army knife. He's exactly what they should be looking for if they want a replacement, or not a replacement, but a guy that can give them similar qualities to that of a Cam Curl. Drew Tranquil is the man for the drop. Now, here's the issue with Drew. Drew has had some issues staying healthy, okay? When healthy, as you can see, look at how he filled up the stat sheet, okay? Drew's batting down balls, getting to the quarterback, all of that good stuff, picking off passes, all of that good stuff. 145 tackles, all right? Actually, didn't miss any time. He 17 games, okay? His first number is games. This next number is snaps, 923 snaps. This next number is tackles. This next number is sacks. This next number here, I think, is passes deflected or something to that effect. Batted balls or something like that. And one of these is interceptions. Maybe forced fumbles, interceptions, that kind of thing. Anyway, fumble recovery. Lot of stats. Good football player. Very interested. Very, very interested. Delshawn Phillips, Cam Gill, Bryce Huff, Andrew Van Ginkel, Mac Wilson, Justin Hollins, Blake Cashman, EJ Speed, Chris Barnes. Here's our old buddy, Cole. 26 going on 27. Played in 7 games, as we talked about, 446 snaps, 69 tackles before his season was cut short. Not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot of money. You know what you're getting yourself into. Still a lot of good football in front of him. That's our guy. Homegrown product. Doesn't like the Cowboys, just like we like them. There's a lot to like there. Love me some Cole Holcomb. Would not mind bringing him back. Let's move this up a bit and finish out this group. Look who's right under him, though. Dun, dun, dun. David Long. The infamous David Long, who picked us off at the goal line when we played the Titans to secure the victory for Tennessee. That David Long. Love this dude. All right. Now, a couple of things to note. One, had an injury this past year, as you can see, only played in 12 games. So keep that in mind. 2, the Titans would be foolish to let him walk. But the Titans right now got a new GM. You know what happens when new GMs come on the scene? Veterans, and guys that have been there tend to move on because the new GM wants to come in and put his stamp down. I'm intrigued. He's physical. He gets to the football. He makes plays on the ball. 2 interceptions, as you can see right here on the season. Does a lot of good things, man. Very intrigued. And he's high on my list of guys that I think we should go after if we're going after someone at the linebacker position. So, David Long is definitely on the list. Tanner Muse, not interested. John Radigan, Clay Johnston, Christian Roseboom, Andrew Dole, Caden Ellis. Interesting. Out of Idaho, played for the New Orleans Saints. Interesting, has actually played some good football for them. So I'm not interested, but they may be. Age is getting close to 30, but not quite there yet. I don't think 28 is going to scare anybody away. And Marcel Harris. So that is the linebacker position. A lot of options, man. Lots of options that they can pursue. And so going to be interesting to see what Washington does. I've laid out the positions that I think they're going to attack. I've shown you all of the free agents that exist at those positions currently. So now we'll see what they decide to do. All right. Now, enough of me talking. Let's hear from you guys. What says you? Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. And we start the night out with my guy, Co. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Co, writes, appreciate the content you pushing out year round, Lou. Hashtag GOAT, hashtag mob. Mob, y'all know what it is. We in the building, stand up. And I appreciate you, Co. Thank you so much for the support. Prince Charming. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Prince Charming writes, can you project the receivers that are going to be going in the first round, and can you name them? I don't know how many receivers are going to go in the first round. I don't think it's a great group of wide receivers. I know Jordan Addison out of USC is going in the first round. I think Johnston out of TCU is going to go in the first round. Honestly speaking, that might be it. Smith and Jigba, probably going to go in the first round as well. Those are the 3, I think, that are probably going to go in the first round of this year's draft. I don't think anybody else is going to warrant a first-round pick. Those are the 3, I believe. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. And leaving anybody out of the first round at wide receiver, because I've been known to do that. So I'm going to check my list right now and see. So Quentin Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Yeah, I think that's the 3 dudes, man. Jalen Hyatt I was not impressed with him at the combine. He had some drops. He ended up ending his day early, cited an injury. I think he just, after he had a couple of drops on some deep balls, he was just like, F it. I'll just see you at my pro day. We know what he is. He's a speed demon. And I think ultimately he'll be a second-round pick. Zay Flowers was impressive at the combine. I think he'll be a second-round pick. I think those are your 3 first-round wide receivers Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I didn't leave anybody out. Those are the three. Amar, 2 times official. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Amar, 2 times official writes, I want Myles Murphy at 16. Again, I've already made the case for if you stumble upon an elite edge rusher at 16, I say you take him. If all the corners are gone, this is assuming all the corners are gone, and there's a very high probability that all 3 of the corners that I'm interested in, because even though Brian Branch can help us in the nickel, I think you can find a nickel later in the draft. You don't have to spend 16 on a nickel that may be elite but may not be elite. I'd much rather take that pick at 16 and spend it on an elite prospect. We know the corners names in the draft. We know of JPJ. We know of Christian Gonzalez. We know of Devin Weatherspoon. All 3 of those dudes could be gone by the time we get on the board at 16. I think one of them will be there, though. I feel pretty confident that if you've got 4 quarterbacks go, if you've got 2 or 3 edge rushers go, if you've got 1 or 2 offensive linemen go, if you've got 3 or I think you've probably already got 3 edge rushers gone at that point already. You got to factor in the defensive tackle Jalen Carter. He's going to go despite the issues. He's going to go in before 16. I'd like to think that one of those corners fall to you at 16. But in the event that they don't, Philadelphia needs a corner. I could easily see 2 or 3 teams in the top 10 needing a corner. I could see a scenario where all 3 of those guys are gone by the time you get to 16. I'm not interested in Kaylee Ringo at 16. So I'd prefer you go the defensive tackle route. I mean, the edge rusher route. And I think Myles Murphy will be available. I'm anxious to see what he does at Pro Day. I really wanted to see him at the Combine, but I'm anxious to see what he does at his Pro Day. Same with the Texas Tech edge rusher and what he will bring to the table. Once all these guys puts some numbers to the film, I think it'll create a bit of clarity. But if Myles Murphy is there, I'd have to take a hard, long look. If you're Washington, you got to take a hard, long look at it, selecting them. Amar, 2 times official. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, there are actually a few solid nickels in free agency. Byron Murphy, Callahan, Bunting. I want one. No, we need one. So Byron Murphy is more of a boundary corner. He played outside in Arizona, and he's going to make some good money, real good money. Bryce Callahan is getting up there in age. I wanted Bryce Callahan when he was available the last time in free agency. He's got to be pushing 30, at this point, after having spent a huge chunk of his career in Denver, the early portion. Then he went to Chicago. Then he was with the Chargers. I don't know where he played football last year. I think it was the Chargers last year. He's got to be pushing 30 at this point. So I'm not interested in him. Sean Murphy, Bunting. I don't think he's been right since the Super Bowl year, honestly speaking. I think I'm good on him. He's young though, but I think I'm good on him as well. I think he's more of a boundary as well, but I think I'm solid on him too. I'll pass. Timothy Teeler, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Timothy Teeler writes, having Lamar would be icy. Terry, Sam, Dotson, a lot of people pretty much echoed those sentiments in the comment section of the last call for Lamar Jackson video, where I was stunned at how many people were like, yeah, make it happen. Do it. Do it. Do it. Having Lamar would be exciting. It'd be the most excitement here since Robert Griffin III in 2012. That's for sure. Let's see. Super chat here from Commanders Nation. Why is there a picture of Michael Irvin on Commanders Nation's? That's really suspect there. Anyway, I digress. Commanders Nation writes, to not at least try to go after an MVP for a 5th-round pick with one start under his belt is plain idiotic. NFC is wide open. No reason to at least try. I mean, there's reasons not to try. I mean, I played you the clip of what Rich Eisen had to say. It's pricey. It's very pricey to go out here and get a guy like Lamar. And I think the thing that scares a lot of teams off, which is why he hasn't re-signed in Baltimore, is he wants a fully guaranteed contract, essentially. There's no exit ramps. There's no way out of that. There's no way to finagle that. There's plenty of wiggle room when, you've already given a guy all of his guarantees in the first 3 years of a 5-year contract. There's ways to maneuver around that. There's no wiggle room when a guy has a fully guaranteed contract. Every year of his contract, you're on the hook for X amount of millions of dollars, and there's no way to shape that, to work around that. Like the Deshaun Watson, I already laid out for you the Deshaun Watson contract. It's $54 million of cap space every single year of that deal. There is no exit ramp. There is no, hey, we can give you this up front. Now, Deshaun Watson can take that contract and he can restructure it, take some guarantees up front to provide them with some cap space or some flexibility. But as that contract is constructed right now, there is no flexibility. So there is that. And if you plan on retaining some of the guys that you have here, it may not be in the plans if you bring on a Lamar Jackson. But to your point, you bring in a guy like Lamar Jackson in a conference that is wide open, you never know. But they think they got something in Sam Howell. So there's that as well. Like that definitely complicates the matters. I've always said that a guy like Sam Howell shouldn't, stop you from going after a big name quarterback if you can reach out and grab them. But after striking out, and again, I'm keeping it consistent. I've given Ron credit for trying something different. He's trying something different this offseason. He swung for Matt Stafford. It didn't work. He settled on Ryan Fitzpatrick. That didn't work. He tried for Russell Wilson last year. He swung, he missed. He settled on Carson Wentz. That didn't work. This time he's saying, you know what? To hell with swinging for a big fish. Let's just see what we got here. I hear you loud and clear, though. Will Kavanaugh, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Will Kavanaugh writes, we can't afford paying LJ. We have more priorities in fixing that O-line and secondary. We also need that money to re-sign our guys. Again, I've always said this, but I'm going to make it abundantly clear. I don't worry about cap space. If you really want to do some things, there's ways around the cap. Teams do it every year. Now, eventually, you're going to have to answer to someone if you keep playing around with the cap. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. And you're going to lose a player or two that you would love to keep. But you'll cross that bridge when you get there. The Saints never have cap space, yet they went out and got Derek Carr. Why? They gave him $60 million in guaranteed money at signing. So now you don't have to worry about, his base salary being exorbitant, absorbent, you could just say, hey, your base salary is $3 million this year because we gave you $60 million when you signed your name on the dotted line. And you're getting another $10 million by just being on the roster at the end of the first year of your contract in year 3. So you're essentially getting $70 million after 1 year of service. So your base salary can be peanuts, essentially, right? There's ways around it. You can massage the cap, right? So, again, if you the only reason last year was so painful with Carson Wentz is because you couldn't restructure his deal. If with Lamar, the reason that it wouldn't be as painful as Carson is because you could get Lamar in here. You could sign him to the deal that you want him, that he wants. And then you could go back to Lamar and say, hey, Lamar, can you restructure this? You're getting all of your money. It's just going to be in a different form, right? Instead of you getting a base salary of $60 million next year, how about, we give you a workout bonus of $20 million and a roster bonus of $20 million. And that would cut down the amount that your salary is for the next year down to, $25 or $30 million instead of 60, move some money around. You could do that. But the reason we couldn't do it with Wentz last year is because we couldn't restructure his deal. We couldn't touch it at all. It was $28 million. And if he wasn't good, you weren't going to be on the hook for anything else. So you had to leave the deal alone the way it was. If you knew Carson Wentz was going to be good for you, you could have restructured this deal last year. And then you wouldn't have had to cut Eric Flowers. You wouldn't have had to cut Matt Ioannidis. You wouldn't have had to cut Landon Collins. But because you weren't sure, you wanted to protect yourself in case he stunk, which he did, and you could get out without penalty. There's ways to play with the cap. But I hear you. There's no way around it. Lamar Jackson is going to be expensive for whomever signs him, whether it's Baltimore or some other team. It's going to be expensive either way. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chris, thank you. Who writes, hey, Lou, hope all is well with you and the family. With approximately, hold on one second. With approximately $16.575 million in salary cap space, what players, if any, would you restructure their contracts to free up cap space and why? So we have way more cap space than that. You're looking at the money that we had from last year that's going to roll over. With the cap going up, the cap's going to increase the start of the new league year. Carson Wentz's money is going to come off the books at the start of the new league year. And all of a sudden, voila, you got all this cap space to play with. Washington will probably be in the top 10 to 15 in cap space this year when it's all said and done. After the new cap money hits, after Carson Wentz's release is official and that money comes off the books, Washington, remember, Carson Wentz was $28 million last year. Right? Like, we're going to have some money to play around with when it's all said and done. So, will they restructure some guys? Maybe. Again, could you take I've already suggested that Chase Rouillet is a guy that you got to go to and say, hey, look, man, it's been a rough 2 years since you got your new, 4-year, $40 million deal or whatever it was. It's been a rough two years, man. Why don't we restructure this thing, bring that base number way down, but we'll fill this bad boy up with incentives. And if you hit all your landmarks, you stay healthy, you play X amount of snaps, you'll get all your money back. You could do that. That'll free up some cap space. You can go to Kendall Fuller and say, bro, you about to make double digits this year. Good for you. We love you. Still want you around. We can offer you an extension, bring that base number down, give you a bunch of guarantees at the time of signing. push some of your base salary, down the road, kick that can down the road and free up some more. Like, there's things you can do. Or you could just say, Kendall can play this last year of his deal, and then his $11 million comes off the books next year. So you're fine. I don't think you have to restructure, because we really don't. If you think about it, you look at Washington, we really don't have a lot of big deals. We're not paying a quarterback. Carson Wentz was making the most money of any player on our team last year. Now Jonathan Allen is making the most money, or Terry, is making the most money of any player on the team now. Like, we don't really have any crazy contracts. So you really don't need to restructure anything. Cap-wise, we're actually pretty healthy. Take that. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Take that. Who writes, so many linebackers available in free agency. We got to get one of them boys, right? Right. That's the assumption. Absolutely. And I think they will. I think Ron understands that they got to get better production out of the linebacker position. If you really want Jamin Davis to be able to roam around and be the athletic dynamo that you think he can be, you want him free of clutter of the mind, and you want somebody else, having the green dot on their helmet, lining everybody up, and just letting Jamin play. So whether that's Cole Holcomb or somebody else, you got to find a dude. And I prefer you to also find another backup to that dude that you bring in via the draft. So I think, yes, the assumption is we got to get one of them boys, right? Yeah, I think you're right. We do. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Writes, Ron needs to get something out of this linebacker group in free agency, even if it's Holcomb. At least try and make an offer to Edmonds. Don't sit back and do nothing. They're going to do something. Don't you worry, JP. Now, again, may not come away because, again, some of these dudes are going to make some really good bread. So, may not be what they're looking to spend, and they may end up getting out of. And a lot of times, too, is who beats you to, who gets to the table first? Who beats you to the punch? Who beats who to the punch, rather? Because it could be the first team to reach out to Tremaine Edmonds' agent with a deal that ends up getting it done. Who's to say? There are going to be a lot of teams interested in this. This is a really good group of linebackers in free agency. A lot of teams are going to be interested. And with this not being the best of linebacker draft classes, I think it's going to promote a lot of aggressiveness from these teams with some bread out here to go and get these linebackers. And a lot of them are young, too. So, yeah, we're going to come away with something. I can't guarantee you that, like I can backup quarterback or even offensive line, but I feel really confident that we're coming away with something at linebacker. John Livingston, my guy JL Smooth. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you as always. My guy JL 105.3 Smooth writes, what up, Lou? What's up, JL Smooth? Hope all is well, brother. Likewise. How can any Washington fan say they don't want Lamar? I get the non-exclusive tag is a risk, but if you don't have a quarterback, you aren't winning. Maybe Sam is that guy, but Lamar is that guy. And that's the dilemma that a lot of Washington fans find themselves in. Even the ones that didn't want Lamar admitted that I'd love to have him, but I kind of want to see what Sam has. And I'd like to kind of build this thing the way that we're kind of, building it right now, in the direction that we're building it now. Would hate to lose a player or two on behalf of Lamar's contract, While I get that, and I get both sides of the argument, honestly, because there's one side that says, hey, man, we ain't had a quarterback in over pushing 4 decades. We ain't had a franchise quarterback. The hell, what are we talking about here? We got a young guy in the prime of his career who's already run a league MVP that we know is capable when healthy. What are we talking about? Make it happen. And then on the other hand, you're like, going to cost you 2 first-round picks. Going to cost you a bunch of money, and he wants a fully guaranteed contract. Going to probably cost you a couple of guys that you would love to re-sign that you're probably not going to be able to re-sign. Because while I can sit here and talk about the salary cap like we're playing with Monopoly money, there's only so much maneuvering you can do. And if you sign Lamar Jackson to a fully guaranteed contract, there ain't no maneuvering that money, okay? Unless Lamar is willing to restructure after a year or two, ain't no maneuvering a damn thing. That shit is what it is. Period. That contract is what it is. But Sam Howell is an unknown commodity. Lamar Jackson is a known commodity. Absolutely facts. The biggest thing you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to take the hurt? Because it's going to hurt to go get Lamar. Not everybody's willing to take the hurt. And are you willing to pass up the opportunity to see what Sam Howell can bring you, who is a cheaper, younger option? That's another thing you have to ask yourself. For the franchise, it's a very tantalizing opportunity with Sam Howell because you maximize your Super Bowl window if you are able to hit it big with a young quarterback on a rookie deal. One of the problems with Washington and this quote-unquote window with a young quarterback on a rookie deal is he's not a first-round pick, so there is no fifth-year option. So that window isn't 5 years, which if he's really good and you determine that after 3 years, you're not getting the year 5. It's 4 years. But still, that window isn't 5 years, it's 4 years. One of those years in that window is already gone because his rookie season is in the rear view. You still don't know because he really didn't play in that rookie season. So you still have to find that out. You won't find that out until the second year of this window that exists. And if you feel really good about him, you're like, hey, do it again in year 3. And by the time he does it again, now you have to pay him. So you could go both ways, right? A lot of people would love homegrown product. A lot of people, I'm very intrigued by Sam Howell. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't. But if you told me I could get Lamar Jackson, I'm listening. All ears. I'm listening. So I think most fans are willing to listen. They may not be willing to sign, may not be willing to do the deal. And don't forget, Lamar comes with some injury concerns. He's not unlike, for most Washington fans, you can probably attest to this, he's not unlike John Wall, right? Super athletic point guard who really relies on his speed and athleticism to dominate. You're 1 or 2 injuries away from that being snatched from you. And now, can you still be the same player that you were when you were explosive and dynamic and getting to the rim at will? Can you be that guy? His legs are a huge part of what he does. You're 1 catastrophic injury away, and he hasn't even had one of those yet. We're just talking about MCL sprains and ankle injury and this. We're talking about other things. We haven't had the big injury. That could be coming down the pipeline. He hasn't finished each of the last 3 years. He has not finished the season as the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. That's something to consider as well. He'd be in a much better position to get a fully guaranteed contract had he had the success that he had in the first, 2 years of his career, where he didn't have any injuries. 18, really it was 19 and 20. So the first 3 years of his career. Because 18, he came in late in that season, went to the playoffs, lost to the Chargers. 19, really good regular season, go to the playoffs, lose there. 20, they were the best team. At 19, they were the best team in the AFC. And they got bounced by the Titans in their first game, coming off of the bye in the divisional round. 20, was he league MVP in 19 or 20? Don't remember. But that's the year they went to the playoffs and beat the Titans. His first and only playoff victory, and then lost to the Bills, a game in which he got injured and did not finish, on the road in Buffalo. Then the next year, they started out like 7-3 or 7-2 or something like that, 8-3 or something. And then he gets hurt. They lose every single game down the stretch and miss the playoffs. And then 2022, start off really good again. He gets injured. This time, they're able to win just enough games to get in. They go to Cincinnati, would have won with Lamar Jackson under center. He doesn't play. Tyler Huntley fumbles the ball. It's scooped up and run 99 yards, and the rest is history. They lose that game. There's a lot of stock being put into that as well, and rightfully so. So there's arguments to be made for both sides. I get it. Bradley Campbell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Brad, writes, great show, Lou. Thank you. I appreciate that. We need Sam to switch back to his college number 7, like Hurt switch back to his number 1. So, Bradley, you got to be a young boy. Got to be. And I love you. 7 is one of the sacred numbers here. Dwayne got it, and he shouldn't have gotten it because Daniel Snyder didn't have the balls to tell Dwayne that he couldn't have 7. And instead, he took the bitch route out and said, hey, won't you go ask Joe Theismann yourself? Put Joe in a tough spot where he couldn't say no. Joe should have never been put in that spot because no one should be wearing 7. He's the last franchise quarterback this team has had. Last quarterback to lead us to a Super Bowl that was a franchise quarterback. Rippon did it, but he wasn't a franchise quarterback. Theismann was, okay? Last quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, for this franchise to win league MVP. No one else should be wearing the number 7 here in Washington. Honestly, it's not retired, but it should be protected. Okay? Much like a whole heap of numbers. No one should be wearing 81 here. No one should be wearing 44 here. There are a lot of numbers that is just understood. You're not wearing that number. 7 should be one of those numbers. So, I don't think he should wear 7. Dwayne should have never gotten 7. 7 needs to go back in its rightful spot where no one gets to wear it. And really, Washington should just go ahead and retire some of these numbers so we're not even having this conversation. But you know what? If you don't want to retire the number in case you need it one day, fine. But guess what? You need to be a little bit more stringent on these numbers that are off limits. That's one of them. So, no, he can't go back to 7. Theoretically, he could, but he shouldn't, and they shouldn't allow him to. And if he wants to go somewhere else, number-wise, knock yourself out. But not 7. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel writes, sup, Lou? Do you see Washington and Tampa Bay free agent cornerback Jamel Dean as a fit? Jamel Dean is a solid corner. Again, I like Jamel Dean. I don't love him. And again, corners cost. At a bare minimum, Jamel Dean is going to make probably, north of $10 million a year because he's a solid starting NFL corner. So it may not cost you, 17, 18, 19 million dollars. He's not going to get that. But I could see him getting 11, 12 million dollars a year. I could see him getting a 4-year, $40 million deal. Again, that's not breaking the bank, but why would you spend money on that when you can get one of those boys in a deep, very deep cornerback draft class? You don't need to spend money on a corner when you can get a guy on a rookie deal. And if you get one in the first round, you got him for 5 years. You don't need to spend $40 million on a corner. We can get one in the draft in the second round and have him on a rookie deal for 4 years. I just don't see the value in that. That's why I didn't go over the list of corners, because I just don't see the value in that for Washington. Not when you got it's similar to the tight end position. The value isn't really there. Somebody's going to spend on Dalton Schultz, but the value really truly isn't there because there's so much value in the draft. Why would I spend money on a guy that's older, that's going to cost me more money, when I can get a younger guy for much cheaper? I wouldn't mind Jamel Dean. I don't love him, though. I don't love him. Rosario Satara Pulowski, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Rosario Satara Pulowski writes, hi, LT. What's going on, man? What's going on, Russ? My first book I finished in 2021, Goal Intervention, The Mental Therapy, Sport and Hobby, is finally published on Amazon Prime in paperback. Congratulations, man. You just keep hitting milestone after milestone after milestone, man. Couldn't be prouder of you, man. Continue to grind. It's nothing like seeing a dream come true, right? Seeing the fruits of your labor finally starting to pay off. So continue to grind. I know you were working on a second book, and continue getting after it, man. Proud of you, Russ. Hey, and oh yeah, by the way, if y'all out there, get my man's book. Get my man's book. Support the movement. All right. Let's see. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Luck writes, NFL final bids and process started before meetings at the end of March. This was just posted by Gasparino. They finally pushing him out. I saw something today where they said that he wasn't going to, and I think I'm going to do a video on it tomorrow, but I told you, I'm not living and dying on everything that comes out. The Washington Post, they have an article on this whole, bidding process and will he sell, won't he sell? They got an article on this thing every 3 days. And again, if you allow yourself to ride the roller coaster, you will drive yourself insane. Okay. and I've already said this, I was thinking about doing a video tomorrow. I don't know if I want to do a video because not on that, at least, because this thing is fluid. It changes every day. What we do know, and this I can assure you, what we do know is Dan is going to leave. If he does in fact leave, he's going to leave like a 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum, kicking and screaming. Okay, we know this to be a fact. I said this about a month ago. When I asked you guys, should I be alarmed? Should I be scared? I haven't heard anything. I'm getting worried. I said, I should have known better. Like Monica, you should have known better. I should have known better. That he wasn't going to just say, you know what? I've caused enough strife and heartache and pain with this fan base. I've caused enough. I'm just going to leave. I'll take my money, I'll go on my yacht, and I'll sail off into the night. Hell no! That ain't never been Daniel Snyder. F y'all. F what y'all talking about. Y'all need to give me pretty much immunity against everything that y'all trying to bring my way. Y'all can't have no more charges coming at me after I sell this bitch. I don't want nothing else to do with nothing. Leave me the hell alone. I don't want nothing else coming my way. I don't want somebody, rolling up to my yacht in the middle of the damn sea, serving me with some kind of injunction or serving me with some kind of, suit or anything. Leave me the hell alone. And if I can't get that, I ain't going nowhere. Dan knows what he's doing. He's asking for things that are unreasonable to make it so that he can't sell the team. First thing he's asking for, $7 billion. Ain't nobody paying $7 billion for this franchise. You crazy? All the shit you're going to have to do. Now, look, I can tell you this. If you buy it for $7 billion, I know this sounds crazy, but you're going to turn a profit eventually. And a lot of it. This NFL thing is worth a lot of money, in case you didn't know, right? Last time I checked, these NFL owners are making money hand over fist. All right. But you know how the wealthy stay wealthy? They don't stay wealthy by giving away money they don't have to. Wealthy people are among the cheapest and most frugal that exist. So if you think Jeff Bezos is just going to show up and be like, last time I checked, team was evaluated for roughly $5.2 billion. And the last NFL franchise sold for $4.5 billion. They actually have a stadium and a loyal fan base. And a brand that has been around for decades and decades. And they sold for $4.5 billion. You think I'm just going to open up my deep pockets and pull out a check for $7 billion just because that's what you're asking for? Even though he really doesn't want to sell to Bezos. Again, making shit hard, because if you really were trying to sell, you just sell to the guy that you know could pay. But he doesn't want to sell. And if he does, he wants it on his terms. He wants to win. So I don't really see him going anywhere yet. People were talking about this process is going to move fast. I'm like, we sure about that? Now we're hearing that they're not going to vote they're not going to even put it on the table to discuss or vote him out in the March league meetings, right? That's the last thing I read, was that they're not going to do that. They're hoping to do it if they have to. And what they're hoping, and this is what the owners are hoping, and I don't know who they think they're talking to or who they're dealing with. Like, they should know better, but clearly they don't. They're hoping that he just sells the team out of doing the right thing, which they don't know Daniel Snyder very well, because he could give a damn about the right thing. So if he doesn't get what he wants, he's not going to do what they want him to do, and they're going to have to then act. That won't happen until the summer meetings in Arizona, and that's not until, like, I think either July or August. So I don't really see this thing having a resolution anytime soon. So again, buckle up. I told you guys, get your popcorn ready. Buckle up. This is going to be one hell of a ride. At the end of the day, I still see him being out of here. It's just not going to happen in the timely manner that a lot of you had. So we'll see what happens. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, if Howell fails and we're back in the QB market in 2024, are you willing to give up what it's going to cost to go up into the top 3 and get my guy Caleb Williams, Drake May, or even Quinn Ewers? Quinn is going to have to stave off the young Manning in Texas, right? So we'll see if he's able to do that or not. They seem to think Arch Manning is the savior there. So we'll see what happens there. He may have to get into the portal. Well, Quinn Ewers. Drake May is at Carolina. We'll see. We do this every year where this guy is highly touted. We get to the draft, and that guy had a down year. Same thing we did with Sam Howell. Replace Drake May with Sam Howell 3 years ago. Same conversation 2 years ago. And Caleb Williams is going to be number 1 overall. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So if you can't get to number 1, then you're screwed there. Anyway, I don't want to talk about. I'm not putting that in the atmosphere. If Sam Howell fails, I'm not. That's not my thing. I'm about good juju. I'm not putting that out in the atmosphere. But if Sam isn't good this year, I'll just say this: if Sam doesn't work out for whatever reason, it's new everything. Probably new ownership, definitely new head coach. And at that point, all bets are off. So, yeah, you get a new owner in here who's willing to do whatever it takes to try to solve the quarterback position. Yeah, well, you can see us going up into wherever we got to go. We'll see what happens. I'm not, like I said, I'm not speaking that into existence, though. All right. Weapons of ass destruction. I can't. I cannot do this with you today. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Hey, Lou, what's good, bro? I can't. How are you feeling about the XFL? The Defenders' home field is lit. Almost feels like a middle finger to Dan, LOL. I mean, they chanted F you to Dan Snyder over the weekend. Can I be honest with you? I haven't watched 1 second of XFL football. Not a single second, my guy. I've heard that Audi Field is lit and it's a great environment. And it may be a bit of a middle finger to Dan. It may be them being rebellious. F Washington, a lot of the younger fans, that's their way of pretty much voicing their displeasure with Washington, the Commanders organization, is they'll support another football entity. They won't support the other one, which is fine. To each its own. I'm not going to lie to you. I can't get into the XFL. I haven't tried, though. And, maybe I'll be at my parents' house, 2-3 weeks from now on a Sunday. It ain't shit going on. Number NBA basketball. It's commercial. My dad hates commercials. So he's flipping through the channels. And we might run into XFL because I know he's watching it. My dad will watch anything sports related. So, my situation is totally different. I got kids. When we're not actually sitting down watching TV, we're watching Cars or we're watching Bubble Guppies. So I don't get to just have my TV on the XFL. Either I'm watching something specifically, like I carved out time to watch this, or we watching some shit that, isn't going to move the needle. So, yeah, I haven't watched any XFL football. I can tell you almost every single word of Cars. Season 1 of Bubble Guppies, I can almost word for word recite every single episode. So that's where I'm at with mine right now. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, video channel. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Lou, how do you see Eric B utilizing the fullback position? Andy loves carrying the position, and I would love to see an all-purpose fullback if so. I don't know if philosophically that's how Eric feels about the position. Remember, last year we had an H-back with the tight ends essentially acting as a fullback. Those guys were the lead blockers a lot of times on those inside runs. A lot of wham blocks from the tight ends coming across in motion and whatnot. So I don't know if they're going to have a true fullback. They still have Alex Arma, I believe. Let me check. I can check right now. I don't have to guess. I have the roster already pulled up. So I can check and see if technically he's still on the roster. Don't see him. Don't see him there. Don't see him there. So, no, he's not there. Let's see. He could be here. Yep, he's still on the futures reserve. So, they still have Alex Arma. So, yeah, theoretically speaking, they could just insert Alex Arma and have a legitimate fullback. I don't know. Like you said, the Chiefs have always had guys like Anthony Sherman, the Shermanator, on their team, who has been, really good at opening up holes. Every now and again on third and short, you hand it to the fullback on a fullback dive. Every now and again, you throw him a bone out in the flats, that sort of thing. Sure, that could happen. We'll see. We haven't had a fullback here since Darrell Young. It's the last time we had a legit fullback. So I don't know. We'll see. Weapons of ass destruction. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, at least the defenders are good. Give it a try, man. I'm not rebelling against it. I just don't have any interest. Again, I get some extra time on my hands. There's nothing like I almost watched some of a game. He's sitting on the couch. Everybody was asleep. It was a Saturday night. I flipped over to the XFL game, and it was seconds left in the game. And it was already over. One team was pretty much. I lied. I have watched probably about 2 minutes of an XFL game. It was some neon green team, and I think Francois, the quarterback that used to be at Florida State, was the quarterback, and he ended up throwing a touchdown pass, I believe, to a former NFL wide receiver, the one that used to play for the Broncos. I think we had him here briefly too. The dude that ended up either getting shot or something happened. I can't remember his name, but he played with Denver. We signed him, and then he had some shit go on, and then he didn't make our team. I think he caught a touchdown pass, and then they needed to go for, like, I guess in the XFL you can go for 5 or some stupid shit. They needed to go for 2. They needed to go for 5, I think, or 3. I think you can go for 2, 3, 4, 5, all that shit. And they needed to go for 3, and they ended up going for 2. And I think, what's my man from Alabama that played in the league briefly that does college football? Actually does a pretty good job. I like him. I can't remember his name. He was calling a game. He's like, I don't really understand what they're doing here. They have to go for 3. The math doesn't make sense. You're just not going to have enough possessions. They're going for 2 here. I just don't get it. And I was like, okay, enough of this shit. And I turned it. And I haven't watched any more XFL. So, yeah. I'd watch some, but I'm not making a point to, the Defenders play at 2:00 today. I'm gonna set my watch to watch some Defenders football. No, if the shit's on and I just happen to catch it, I catch it. But it's probably a solid product. I hope it works out. I really do. I mean, we need alternative football. So I hope it works. The NFL needs a developmental league. And one of these leagues, hopefully they work out. Hopefully the XFL works. I saw The Rock tweeting about AJ McCarron and how he could have had more money on the table in the NFL to be a backup, but instead he took less money so that he could actually play in the XFL. And like the first 2 games of the season, he had dramatic come from behind victories. Oh, that was a tearjerker. Whoop did he effing do? All right. That's cool. But again, it's not going to make me watch. But again, if I'm sitting around and it just happens to be on, I'm not going to be like, I'm not watching XFL and I'm going to turn my head. I'll give it a try. I just have no real desire to make it a point of emphasis to watch. That's all. Weapons of ass destruction. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, I wasn't big on it, but this season's been fun, bro. Plus, our boy Greg Williams is on that sideline, being hype as always. They have a beer snake. That's probably why you love it so much. That's probably why you gave it a chance, is because you had those old feelings of 2005 rushing back to you again when you saw old Gregory on the sidelines. You're such a hoe for 2005, I swear. You know you my guy, though. Oh, my God. Um, JP6, it's Cody Latimer, not Corey Latimer, but yes, thank you. You jogged my memory. It's Cody Latimer. I think it was him that caught the touchdown pass. I could be wrong. Could have been somebody else. I think it was Cody Latimer, though. Weapons of Mass Destruction says you can go for 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Yeah, I think he was saying they needed to go for 3, and they ended up going for 2, and they didn't get it either way. Weapons of Mass Destruction writes, the DC Defenders are 3-0. The Houston Roughnecks are 3-0. Wade Phillips coaches the Roughnecks. Would be the XFL version of Cowboys versus Redskins, in my opinion. Is that so? Is that what that's shaping up to be? Good for them. Should be good stuff then. If you got 2 3-0 teams and they're on a crash course for one another, maybe it'll turn out to be really good. I personally said I was going to watch the XFL to see what it looked like, this iteration of it. And I just been busy, just been busy. And it's so much easier to give random shit a chance when you don't have twin 1-year-olds, running around and occupying space and all of that good stuff. But maybe I think it'll be more feasible when I go to like my mom and dad's house and there's infinite people there to watch them, and I don't have to worry about, are they touching this? Are they touching that? Are they going in here? What are they doing? Did they eat? Did they, like, everybody else is going to worry about that stuff. Then I can, watch TV and watch frivolous stuff and do things that I don't normally get to do at home. Maybe I'll check it out. Weapons of Mass Destruction. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, man, I know you're intrigued now, Lou. Don't cap. I'm not any more intrigued now than I was before we started this conversation. At the end of the day, I want to check out. You know what's going to ultimately happen? We used to do happy hour almost every week, every Friday. Haven't done one of those in ages. Just been too busy. And, once the twins got here, shit changes, right? Life changes when you have infants and things of that nature. Anybody who's experienced that or is currently going through that can attest to that. Shit's never the same. Thus, haven't had the kind of time that we used to have. But every time we would go to happy hour, wherever we would go, they're going to have TVs on. And usually they'll put on whatever sport is on. And, in the offseason of the NFL, it's either NBA or it's going to be like some alternate football league. And last year was a lot of USFL. Like the only USFL I would ever watch was when we would go somewhere to have drinks and it be on. And of course I'm going to watch. It's on. I'm having a conversation with somebody and then my eyes, look up at the TV and I see XFL football or, USFL football. I'm going to watch it. I think that's what's going to happen, as we start to get back out into the scene a bit, starts to warm up. We start to get out and about. My eyes are going to glance up. I'm going to see XFL football and I'm going to watch it. But don't know if I'll be seeking it out. Weapons of Mass Destruction. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, come on, bro. We have a winning team finally. LOL. Not we, you guys. Remember, I'm not a Washington fan of all things Washington. I'm not a Wizards fan. I'm not a Nationals fan. So we don't have a winning team. You have a winning team. If you're a fan of the Caps and the Nats and the Wizards and, the terrapins, all of that good stuff. Bless your heart. I am not. Okay. So even if I'm an XFL fan, doesn't mean that I'm going to adopt Washington as my favorite team. Not that I would have a favorite team. If I watch the league, I'd just watch objectively. Like, I just want to see a good game. But anyway, I digress. Weapons of Ass Destruction writes, thank you for the super chat, first and foremost. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, cheap tickets. But for real, I understand, bro. I actually saw people doing like breakdowns of the game. And so it's probably been really good. There's probably been some entertaining games to start this thing out. And that's good. And a lot of the talent there, ex-NFL players, so we know the names, it's probably a really solid product. Probably a really solid product. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post Live. Y'all know what it is. Post up and take command. On my way out, I want to get into a little bit of the bubbly, if you will. So we're going to let it rain. Turn on this emoji rain real quick. And I'm going to let y'all go for what y'all know. For those of you who haven't done this before, it's pretty cool. All you got to do is put emojis in the comment section and they will rain down on my head. And so let's go ahead and get the party started. So let me make sure I turn on emoji rain. And there it is. See if I can do the floating bubble. I think I prefer this one. All right, so you guys are free to bless the kid. Start letting the emojis flow. And let's have some fun on the way out. So here we go. All right. Let's see what you guys got. Appreciate the goats. Prayer hands. Got a little bit of sunshine. I seen a couple of nuts slipping there. There we go. Good old luck. I'm a guess that these cold ice faces are luck too as well. These frozen faces. Got some vegetables. All right. Yeah, I love the peaches. Got the juice box. Got some crying emojis here. Some hunnits. Basketball, football. All right. Hearts. Aw, I love you guys. All right. Got some money. Guys about to get to the bag for sure. Got some burgers here, man. You can never go wrong with burgers. And for me, those are vegan burgers, right? Got some fish. Hey, man, we here with it. Appreciate y'all. We praising. Got some gifts. All right. Got some snacks, some headphones. I'm gonna put that on luck, man. Now, I don't even know if I should charge that to your account, and I'm charging that to your account. Got some avocados. You got some coconuts, some goats there. Appreciate that. All right. Got some caps. I ain't seen no cherries yet. What's going on? I expected to see a bunch of cherries in here. There we go. What's going on? Thought I would have seen a lot of cherries by now. All right. Some controllers, some game heads out there. All right. Got some awards. More cherries. Shout out to the Cherry Squad. Holding it down on Discord. Y'all know what it is. I'm pretty sure Miss Kondo P, or as she goes by Miss Perry these days, it's probably already dropped the link to the Discord in the comment section. If not, I probably need to start putting it in the description of the video so y'all know where to find the Cherry Squad if you want to become a member of that. Wine glasses, you can never have enough of that. Shout out to that. To everybody out there sipping wine. You know, Friday is coming. I see some wine in my future. I can't speak for any of y'all. So there is that. I appreciate y'all blessing the kid, being a part of the stream. Y'all making it rain, emojis. Got a little bubbly there. Got a couple of poo emojis in there. Some eyes. Sometimes I feel like somebody's watching me and I have no privacy. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to get out of here, man. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend. If you're a member or a fan of the Louie T Network, I think there's a podcast in your future on Friday. I can't guarantee you that. But I think there will be a podcast tomorrow. We will see. In any event, I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. We talked about a ton of things, and I look forward to chopping it up with y'all in the future. If anything happens with the Commanders, you know the kid is going to be front and center. Until then, you guys have a good one. God bless, and good night.